Hi, good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you for today's session. I hope all of you are keeping well. Khush rahiye, Anubhav. We had discussed till public and private relation till yesterday. So, when we are discussing about the public and private relationship and ethics in public and private relationship, I requested all of you to read and come some certain segment associated with public and private relations. So I said that can we really separate public and private life in totality? And for which I said that it is tough to separate public and private life when we are speaking of it. We all can share with respect to this given dimension that public and private life cannot be separated, and at the same time there will be a set of thinkers who will be like, no, they can be distinct. So first and foremost, when we are talking about this given possibility, there is an example which is coming from utilitarianism. Like, let us consider a person has been declared bankrupt. So the moment the person is declared bankrupt, what is the reason, like what is the important reason because of which when the person becomes bankrupt, the person is discouraged from holding any public post, from any constitutional or statutory public post? What is the reason? The reason is that if the person is financially distressed and holds a public post, the person can misuse it. So the person's private life influences the person's public relation, that the person is discouraged from contesting for an election or holding a public office, right? Because the person may have a tendency to go corrupt, may accept bribes, the decision will not be taken in consonance with the larger interest of the masses, right? So that's why we can understand that the private life, it can have bearing associated with the public life, and that's why we cannot consider that, difference does it make. That's the issue related to the person's public life. The how you behave in public, your private life, that does impact subtly how you might behave in the public life. And probably that's the reason why the judges rescue themselves when there is a case involving their relatives or friends, because the component of being partial can be blamed. So to maintain transparency in judiciary, this is something which is maintained at all times. So utilitarianism, because it is in the larger interest of the society. Sahil, that's what. Okay. Again, you can see President Clinton's impeachment process. Why was it started? It was his private relationship with Monica Lewinsky. But the question was that if he is abusing the public office for his private gain or private relationship, can that also not be associated with his let's say possibility of abusing it for other purposes? So that's why, he had to undergo the process of that vote of confidence. Anyway, he could win it, but still that was with a slight margin. People were very displeased about it. So why did he undergo the process of testing on the floor the vote of confidence? The reason was that itself. So we can understand that the private life, that is when you are able to portray yourself as a family man, you come across as a responsible person for others, you come across as a responsible man for others. So with respect to this, when we are talking about this given dimension, we also can see that the like during elections, just before elections, we all can see that every once in a while this situation can happen, that you can see the presidential candidate goes to the Sunday mass, as I was sharing towards the last bit of yesterday's lecture, that the person goes to the Sunday mass with the family because the person wants to portray himself or herself as a family person. And when you are able to take care of your family, you come across as a responsible person in the society who is able to give back to the family. Hence the person will be able to take care of the larger concerns of the society as well. So in the similar manner, we can see that whether there is a presidential candidate or a state governor candidate, the person always appears in the media with their wives. For example, you can see that when we are talking about like our the American ex-president, just before the present one, that is Trump. So when he used to come in public places, he used to come out with his wife, but it was very evident that he and his wife were not sharing a candid and a comfortable relationship. And it was evident because in 2 3 public events he tried to hold her hand, and very subtly she left his hand, that don't try to touch me types. So it was evident that there was a public show that was being carried, and many people gossiped about it. But the reason was simple, that the component was associated with this given dimension, that the okay, so Neetu, as you could not take the class because of the college exam, that's perfectly fine. On 12th of August, that will be the last opportunity probably for this year, that on weekend batch I will be starting the session. So weekend batch, 12th of February, you can take the first day session, so the 2 sessions that you missed shall be covered then. All right. So the person is judged on how he manages the micro elements in the life. So very true when we are talking about it. Vivek, if you don't understand utilitarianism, just relax. It's associated with like one of the theories, one of the ideologies which is there in the world of philosophy. It's okay. It's all about, like, the utility concept, like how a thing is helpful. So that's also there. So okay, all right, fine, Swarufuddin. So in terms of this given dimension, when we are talking about it, we also can reflect upon the possibility pertaining to American and Christian society, whereby people are appearing in public offices with their wives, with hugging and kissing and holding hands, to show that they are having a very we can say warm relationship with their family, so that people are able to trust. Whereas in Indian scenario, you can see the situation is very different. You might not know who is Manmohan Singh's wife, or you might not be aware of who Anandi Ben Patel's husband is, because to a certain extent people are not so much concerned, or they are able to successfully conceal their private life and not rouse interest in the, we can consider the given possibility. They are unable to, they are able to conceal the curiosity in people's hearts related to their private lives. Similarly, bad private life does not imply that people are like bad in public life. In this, you can consider Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi's son alleged that he is a very bad father, so how can he be the father of the nation? But we can understand that it's not necessary that if you are unable to meet the interests of the people in your private life, you will fail to meet the larger interests of the society and address the concerns of the society. So that is what was given in this material, which I requested all of you to read and come. Can there be inconsistency in public and private life? Yes, and the example is of Keshab Chandra Sen from Kuch Bihar. So not from Kuch Bihar, from Bengal. And this happened that the Maharaja of Kuch Bihar, he saw that the Brahmo Samaj is motivating the possibility of not getting the children married early. They are abolishing, or they are propagating the abolishing of child marriage. So the Maharaja of Kuch Bihar, maybe to test Keshab Chandra Sen's uprightness, or maybe it was out of sheer interest, whatever the reason it was, but he sent the proposal to get his son married to his daughter. Keshab Chandra Sen was already avoiding the marriage of his daughter for past few years. She was already heading to 16. She was 16 years few months when this Maharaja of Kuch Bihar's proposal came, and his wife became adamant this time. All the relatives became adamant this time that this is once in a lifetime opportunity. Just for the sake of his ideals, he cannot sacrifice the good quality opportunity that is coming the girl's way. And anyway, within a year or two, he would have got her married. So there was so much of tremendous family pressure that he succumbed to it, and he got his daughter married. So when there was inconsistency in his private life compared to his public life, what he was preaching and advocating in the society, it did have a disastrous outcome, that a lot of people lost faith, and they felt that probably what he is propagating in the society, he himself is not following. Okay, so that is what you can connect with. Okay, so bad private life doesn't mean bad public life. Maybe that's why criminals are politicians. No, not really. Criminals become politicians because of all other possibilities as well. right? So inconsistency means something which is not regular, not frequent, not in the similar plank. So, can the state encroach in the public sphere? Sorry, in the personal sphere when we speak of it. So, state generally should stay away from a person's private life. But in private life, if there is any kind of injustice, like domestic violence, okay, any kind of maltreatment of a person, in that situation the state can interfere. In the similar manner, if the state is seeing that there is an officer who is into drinking or into any kind of alcoholism, that person will also impact one's work efficiency. So that is also something which can be like affected. We can also see that field officers, okay, so field officers, they are unable to give sufficient time to their family, okay, and in that situation, to their family will be a better word, to family. So in that situation, because it can be husband or a wife, vice versa, and that can often lead to marital discord because the person is unable to give enough time. And that is also something which we can see, that public life is impacting the private life. So in that situation, the state, it has a tendency to see to it that if counseling is needed for the officers, it is providing so. Because you can understand that on one hand, right to privacy should not be infringed upon, and on the other hand, a balance ought to be maintained. So explaining this, I gave you this specific quotation which is associated with the next subtopic which we are going to start, and that is given by Confucius. Confucius says that all human beings are fundamentally good. Okay, all human beings are fundamentally good in their nature, and if they are uncorrupted by external circumstances, their actions will be morally correct. So and what are the external circumstances? So how the family is impacting, how the society is impacting, how the educational institution is impacting the individual. Because the we can say the value system of an individual gets evolved, it gets developed in the context of, we can say, the background in which the person comes into existence, right? So that is something which we all can consider. Anjali, I'm not teaching meanwhile. You should have revised it and come. I am just helping you recall what was taught yesterday. So please teach slowly. So you please revise things properly so that you remember that I am not teaching right now. I am just helping you recall what was taught yesterday. I was substantiating it with examples. All right. So because when I'll start with the new concept that is related to values, I will have to go in greater detail. This is something which is a continuity of what was being discussed till yesterday, the public and private life, when we are talking about it, right? And you were supposed to read it and come, and then you were supposed to raise questions. I'm just explaining this anyway. Getting back to the game. So with respect to it, this was the this was the question which was raised by Confucius, that all human beings are fundamentally good in their nature, and if they are uncorrupted by the external circumstances, their actions will be morally correct. Means morally or individually we do have a sense of right and wrong, but it is the society which corrupts us. It corrupts our value system. In the process of imparting the values, sometimes incorrect values, or we can say improper behavior, gives us a not so motivated possibility of existence. So that's what probably we can connect with. Now, so with respect to that question, what Confucius says gets substantiated with respect to how values are inculcated in us by the society. So when we are discussing about values, please understand that when I'm going to start with it, and this specific topic, that how values are inculcated by educational institutions, family and society, and as we are elaborating upon it, okay, so we can reflect upon the basic fact that no person is a self-made person. We all are made up of thousands of others. If you remember this value, it is going to nourish you in so many ways. If you just remember this, any person who claims, oh, I'm a self-made person, ask the person, does the person even know how to weave clothes, how to procure like different types of minerals, how to procure different types of, we can say, we can say herbs and shrubs from different types of plants, how to procure different types of, we can say, condiments and masalas from different types of plants. Does the person know how to make salt? Does the person know how to, like, let's say, create, use electricity for different types of gadgets? How the person knows to, manufacture or to assemble different types of gadgets and goods being used? So what we are living, even if we are living in isolation, it is because of what human civilization has gained for thousands of years when we speak of this given scenario. Okay, so when we are speaking of this thing, that there is no one, okay, no one who is completely self made, what do I imply to say? I imply to say that there is not a single person who is created out of the blue. There is not a single person who we can consider is completely self made, because in that situation the person will become Mowgli or Tarzan. The person will not have basic human traits. Even if we are living in isolation, dissociated from the larger society, a lot of belief systems, language, the way we are using different types of goods, articles, it is all because of the civilizational ethos that we have gained from the contribution of hundreds and thousands of people who have lived before us, or who are living around us, who are easing our lives with their inventions, discoveries, and contributions. So, saying that a person is self made is such a farce. Okay, we need to understand that we are a byproduct of thousands of others who have contributed in small or big ways, so that our existence becomes meaningful. Okay, so in the similar manner, when we are again further reflecting upon this given dimension, it is also popularly said that if you really want to know a person's wholesome personality, see, observe the five closest people around the person, and the values, the beliefs of those five people will be influencing this given individual. And the individual will be, we can consider the individual will be the one who would be the person who, or the individual will be the person who, with whom, like seeing whom, you can consider that what ethos, values, or insights will be inspiring the person, because the people who are around him or her shall be influencing the ideals of the given individual. And that's why it is considered that always have smarter people around you, always have more intelligent people around you, because they always make you a better person. They encourage you to make you a better person. So that's something which all of you need to understand. So हाँ, yes, तभी अच्छे दोस्त बनाने चाहिए, अनुभव. So in ethics, they can be anyone. No people around you. You can have your parents, right? You can have your parents. So you can have your neighbors. It's not like we are living in a like isolated island. So in ethics, ethics is a static subject or current. A lot of current examples can be added, a lot of fresh reflections can be added. So with respect to ethics, there is, like, we can, when we are talking about values, so one is human values. This is associated with the first chapter. And public or foundational values, or service related values, this is associated with the next chapter, that is, we can consider aptitude and foundational values for civil services. Right, this is what. So with respect to this given dimension, you will see that there have been 20 questions asked in past 10 years. That means almost every year there will be two questions. So one can be associated with human values in general, and another component is associated with foundational values or civil services values, okay, with respect to this. uh, so that's something which all of you can probably connect with. So I live isolated since 4 years. Interesting, Sushmit. Um, but you must be reading books, and you must be reading, watching TV series and movies. And that also must be inspiring you, Sushmit, because there is a possibility that a child prepared for BTech exam and then got into a college and then continues to remain in isolation. So through books, through media, social media, and through various other platforms, different worlds of wisdom reach out to us. Like for example, I cannot visit a college or or the university like at this time period with all these classes and stuff, but there are international lectures, national level lectures taken by professor emeritus or senior professors, and once in a while when they share their link, I listen to them. And even though I'm not physically present, I when I make cue points by listening to their live lectures or by listening to their I would say recorded sessions, I get inspired and I grow better. So who says that like isolation is pure isolation? You're born in a context and you live in a context at all times, right? So why is there difference in situation in India and US by the way of public and private life of the leaders? It is because of the kind of culture that we possess. Okay, so it is the culture which influences our thought process, but it's not like too tremendous a difference. For example, we see that many a times it is glorified that a public leader is not like having a family like Atal Bihari Vajpayee, or you can see the CM of UP, or you can see the PM. So the possibilities are glorified that, oh, they don't have a family, so they don't have a reason to go corrupt, or they don't have a reason to manipulate or exploit. But then we have this example of this what is his Baba Ramdev. So this fellow Ramdev, he's a hardcore businessman, and once Ramdev also made this statement that I don't have a family, so why will I go corrupt, or why will I indulge in any kind of corruption? But the truth is, the adulterated products that he has been selling for years together now, we all can witness that. And just by not having a family of procreation, and when we are talking about it, so family of orientation is the family in which you are born. Okay, biological bondings with your parents, siblings, and family of procreation is the family in which you procreate, means by getting married, having children, and all. So it's not necessary that you don't have a family of procreation to, so you won't be like corrupt per se. Corruption is not always, the reason for motivation is not always family or others. It is also because of one's own sense of gaining power, one's own sense of chasing certain numbers, which can also encourage an individual to go corrupt when we are speaking of it. All right. So with respect to this, when we are further moving ahead, we all can reflect upon what human values are. So human values are common to all human beings, they are generally universal in nature when we are speaking of it. So like values like love, truth, compassion at all times in all parts of the world are the values which are like propagated and respected. We can also say that, see that even like Osama bin Laden would have loved his children, because loving one's children is, I think, one of the most effortless things that happens with respect to the idea of love when we speak of it. So merely by being a human being, we can understand that like it's like we tend to gain certain values naturally, effortlessly, right? So we can also see that human values, they generally they remain static until and unless there is some very sudden kind of possibility. Till that time, they generally remain static. So when I say sudden change, like for example, like we can remember Emperor Ashoka. So Emperor Ashoka experienced a sudden thrust, a sudden change, and that was because of, we can say, the Kalinga War, that he was made to reflect upon his value system when we speak of it, right? So that's something which all of us can reflect upon, right? Again, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we also can like reflect upon certain other ideas when we are talking about it. uh, just a second, I need some water. So I just like sent some message for it. So with respect to human values, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we all need to reflect upon the possibility that human values, they are on an average relatively static in nature, and that's how we are like able to understand that on an average we don't manipulate or change our values readily or easily, right? So that's also something which all of us can connect with. So, with respect to this given dimension, before we move ahead with values versus attitude, I would like to hyphenate the given possibility related to characteristics of values, okay, or distinct features of values. So, when we are talking about it, we can discuss characteristics or distinct features. Distinct features of values. And under this subcomponent, some core segments that you can reflect upon is associated with, we can consider the first subdimension, that is, values are comprehensive standards. Okay, so values are comprehensive standards that guide us to take specific positions on social issues, right? For example, I can give you the value of equality motivated, like in the issue of Sabrimala temple. So I'm not getting into the ethical discussion or the cultural discussion or the political discussion, how valid was the entry. Okay. I'm just saying that when people are motivated by the value of equality, that they like came up with the jurisdiction that the Sabrimala temple entry, that a temple should be open for all. Okay. So that's something which we all can speak of when we are discussing about this given dimension. Again, human values are slightly different from values which arise from belief. Well, from where are you arriving at this question, Sushmit? Because when we are talking about this very possibility, human values are like values when we are speaking of it. It's just that they hold greater conviction because, as I shared with you in the previous session, beliefs are based on cognition. So, when cognition meets very strong emotions, they start forming our value systems about what is right, what is wrong. Along with that, there are standards of right and wrong which is involved. So, that's how you're supposed to talk about it. So, how to make notes? Well, in terms of making notes, you'll reflect and refer the PPTs, and along with that, like Yashwant, you will also read the book. Probably chapter number 4 and 5 provided to you in the book is associated with these topics. Try to read 30 pages in a go. Don't try to make notes in the first reading. First, try to understand. In the second reading, you will identify certain potholes, certain terms, expressions which you are unable to understand. Try to connect it with the previous or the later para and get a wholesome understanding. In the third reading, try to abbreviate the content and ask which para is important and why, which example is important and why, and which sub-segment is nourishing a specific dimension. Only when you are able to understand and process information after this 3 revisions or 3 reflections that you become capable of making key points or notes. Okay, I hope I'm clear. Now, with respect to this, when we are further moving ahead, uh, we haven't got the books only. Well, that's a management related issue. I really can't help with that, right? You can only like raise the concern to the management. They shall look into the concern. Now, with respect to the second dimension, we can also talk about this values are relatively stable. I was just discussing few minutes back So values are relatively stable and enduring. Stable and enduring. This is what you need to understand. Only intense incidents in life, intense incidents in life can change the value structure, can change the value structure of a person. And in this, I already gave you the example, like for example, Ashoka, when we are speaking of Kalinga War. You can also think of like Angulimal, when we are thinking of his encounter with Buddha, right? You can also think of we can consider Gandhi and his trip to Pretoria when he was traveling from Pretoria. So we can consider Gandhi and his the incident mm, related to train journey, right? So that's something which we all can connect with, right? Yes, it was Durban to Pretoria. So very true. So all right. So yes, you can think of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So this is also something that needs to be worked out. SME, please raise Kapil's issue. This, he has not received the booklet and probably his issue is not getting addressed. And if we can push it further, it will be great. So please look into Kapil's issue, because it's really disheartening that a child wants to study and the books or the material has not reached. Okay, so intense incidents could also change the values negatively. Yes, vice versa also. That can also happen. Again, another segment which we can reflect upon values is that values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. Ought to be. So, not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. What does this imply? That what we are living may not necessarily be based on broader human values. Rather than that, we need to understand that values have to be something which are based on the aspirations for humanity, what humanity needs to achieve, what humanity needs to arrive at when we are speaking about this given dimension. Okay. Again, when we are discussing about it, we can also consider that values are above specific objects, situations, or people, or people. They are core, or they are at the core of human personality, at the core of human personality, and are fewer in number, and are fewer in number than attitudes, and are fewer in number than attitudes. All right. So, what does this sentence imply? I'm quite sure that this sentence will be something that will be triggering a lot of uncertainty. So, I'll explain it very thoroughly. I expect all of you to understand it by paying utmost attention, which I'll be explaining. Can you please provide an example of point 3 for better understanding? Values are not what humanity is. Means in present, what you are living may not be guided by values. Okay. In present, you might be living like a casual life in which there is good and bad, right and wrong, all intermingled. Whereas when we are speaking of values, values are not anything and everything that we are living, because anything and everything that we are living may not be guided by values. They can be casual, they can be associated with, and this topic was asked in essay, and if you are unable to decode the sentence, how will you write the essay? And especially last 2 3 years, essays are hardcore associated with philosophical or ethical concerns. You have to delve deep in the statement, and you have to be capable to decode a statement to be able to substantiate it, right? So when we are speaking of this, that values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be, we need to understand that it is associated with our general concern. So, when the way we are living at all given times, it is the way we are like existing at all given times, it is not necessarily guided by values. Okay, values are something which are guiding principles related to what we should aspire to become, okay, what we should make an effort to become when we are speaking of it. All right, again, now with respect to it, another sub segment. Now everyone has to pay attention to the fourth topic, because I don't want anyone to say, ma'am, please repeat topic number 4, please explain point number 4 once again. So just pay attention while it is happening, be in a meditative state and be present as it is being explained. All right, so when we are speaking of this given sub dimension, it's saying that values are above specific objects, situations, or people. They are at the core of human personality and are fewer in number than attitudes. Okay, what do I imply by that? Or rather, if I substantiate it further, this statement, I can also say that attitudes are manifestation of values. Fewer in number, this statement, if I explain. So, attitudes are manifestation of values. Okay, attitudes are manifestation of values. So, fewer values can define several attitudes, can define several attitudes. So, fewer values can define several attitudes. Now, here, what do we imply to say in this given statement? See, like, let's say if I'm saying the value is honesty. Okay, so if I'm talking about the component of value is honesty, then how will my attitude be? So my attitude will be that of an upright person. Uprightness will be there. I will be duty bound. I will be, I would say, a person of integrity. So I will exercise transparency. Exercise transparency. Okay. I will also entertain time bound grievance redressal. Grievance redressal. Okay, I will be like more disciplined, because if I'm honest, I will try to be honest with all types of work and in all situations. So honesty is just one value, but attitude will manifest itself in so many ways, because attitude is what? It is the behavioral aspect, it is the manifestation of the value. Similarly, if I'm saying there is, like, let us say, the value of equality, right? So if the value is equality, the attitude, this one value, will manifest itself in my attitude of equality towards, we can consider attitude will be practicing equality or justice towards all vulnerable sections. So we can consider all genders, castes, religion, ethnicity, right? So if value is equality, the attitude is having multiple manifestations, as you can see, right? So I hope all of you are able to understand that. So attitude, like fewer values, will impact several types of attitude. A handful of values will guide different types of behavioral expressions. Okay, so that's why we can understand that values are core of human personality. They are lesser in number than attitudes. Attitudes are nothing but manifestation of values. Okay, that's what we all need to understand. So values are above our immediate, like, objective aspiration or reality. Oh, I need more shoes, so let me go corrupt. No, you will be above all objective needs. You'll be like, whatever I have, honestly, I will try to adjust with that. Okay, values will be above situations. They don't change as per the suitability of the situation. That I will be honest only when things are in my favor. Till the time they are not in my favor, once in a while I'll go corrupt. No. And values are above people. I will not exercise favoritism towards my sibling and my friends, and I will, like, be a very, like, upright person before commoners. No, I will exercise the same value towards all people at all times. Okay. Yes, attitude is a byproduct of value. Attitudes are a byproduct of value, is a better word. Okay, in this given situation. So I hope all of you are able to understand this given segment, right? Uh, like bombing Hiroshima, yes, Anubhav, you can consider that values are not what humanity is. So if humanity is into bombing, getting into warfare, it is getting into conflicts, if it is into violation of human rights, so it's not a value that we are exercising. Rather, values would be like aspiring for a harmonized world, a peaceful world, okay, a world full of love and compassion. So values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. Fine. So I hope all of you are good. You are able to understand this. Not everyone follows the values. Yes, so very true. Not everyone follows the values. Can we say it as our foreign policy? It is a part of foreign policy of multiple countries. So that's also there. Now, so as I can sense that all of you are gaining a sense of clarity and confidence in this given segment, then you can also reflect it from this dimension. So values, what do we realize? That values are, we can consider, beneath, or they are the undercurrent of attitude. So they are beneath the ground of attitude. Also, we can see that attitude, when we are reflecting further ahead, we can see that the Western societies are becoming less tolerant, and because of which, like, when we are talking about it, so tolerance, if we consider it as a value, so tolerance, if it is a value, okay, so tolerance, if it is a value and if it is maintained, it will lead to greater harmony, acceptance of diversity. So if tolerance is there, what will be the attitude? Attitude will be that of acceptance of diversity. It will be exercising secularism, right? It will be exercising compassion. It will be also associated with maintaining harmony, right? So tolerance as a value will have several manifestations when we are speaking of it in terms of attitude. Different, in different ways it can, like, come into existence, right? So that's how we can consider. And if tolerance is going down in a society as a value, it will lead to violence, mistrust, like, misjudging, doubting, creating confusion, creating chaos, like, leading to loss of social fabric in a given society. So all those possibilities can happen. Again, we can reflect upon classification of values. So as we are exploring the classification of values, that how many types of values are existing around us, so what we can connect with. So attitude is manifestation of values, yes, definitely. Again, like in Manipur, yes, in Manipur also we can consider that what is happening is loss of tolerance, it is loss of, we can say, law and order is manifestation, but basically there are basic values that are first getting lost. Sometimes tolerance leads to growth of crime. Well, That's why it is considered that tolerance is not virtuous in all situations and all times. You cannot be tolerant towards criminals. You cannot be tolerant towards, we can say, people who are abusers, right? So that's also there when we are speaking of it, Sahil. Point three, previous slide, point three of this one. Yeah, this was just an illustration of this, that how tolerance, when it is going down in America, it happened so that a child came up with a like clock, table clock, and the teacher, when she heard that the clock is ticking tick tick tick, she, in the bag, she mistook that this child is a Muslim, so must be a terrorist, and she complained it to, like, their bomb squad. She complained it to the police. The police reached out to the bomb squad. The entire bomb squad came. It sealed the school premises, then they sealed the classroom. Then slowly and steadily they approached the child and every other child in the class was shuddering and shaking. And there was a school project in which they had to come up with some or the other thing. So the child had made the project using the clock and probably some robot or something like that. But because it was ticking, the teacher, she lost her cool and she called the entire bomb squad. And when they came, you will be surprised to know that when they like unfolded the entire scenario, they saw that it was just a regular clock and there was nothing to be scared of. So then this possibility got highlighted, that how the prejudices of a teacher impacted the entire scenario, and moreover the behavior of the classroom, the impact that was generated or created in terms of the impression that the children bore, and how the child will not have a normal childhood, because the incident will be etched in the mind of the child for, like, his lifetime. And also, till the time the child will continue in the school, younger children, they tend to remember. So the children will remember that the teacher mistook him for terrorist. So there is a fair situation that children behind the back of the teacher may start picking upon the child or abusing the child or calling names. All those possibilities can happen. So just one possibility, that is loss of tolerance as a value, will impact the behavior of like people in general, the way they are interacting with the children. That's how you can connect with it. Okay, so this is what is given as an example in this third bullet which you were asking. And such things are less likely because India is relatively more tolerant as a society. Though, I mean, like, people will be saying that have we lost our sense of tolerance in past few years? Always remember that with globalization, with increasing individualism, with increasing friction, with increasing, we can say, insecurity, because globalization will motivate insecurity along with materialism. So with increasing insecurity, there will be increase in mistrust, doubt in a given society, and because of that, somewhere the quality of tolerance can get compromised. Okay, so that's also there, but that's something that will be taken up in Indian society. Impact of globalization on Indian society, that's there. That's why I told you that the space and scope to improve upon your personality is in two places. First place is associated with what? So it is associated with the paper of ethics massively, and the second space to improve upon your personality, to bring about corrections, is there in Indian society. I don't say social justice, Indian society. Two places where real meaningful corrections can be brought about when we are discussing about it. Okay. So one who swears to not consume alcohol or non-veg, in the case that's value or ethics, huh? Well, when we are speaking of it, it will be associated with a value, not ethic. Ethics are relatively universal concept. Okay, so that's what. So, can we consider individualism and insecurity as negative impact of globalization? Yes, yes, that's what. Yes, values impact our attitude, and attitude shapes our action. I appreciate the clarity, Anubhav. So, to believe in democracy is your value, and going to vote is your attitude. So, very true. As mentioned, Lokesh, towards the beginning. Okay, so that's what. Can we say that it is dependent on human nature that he or she wants to live their full life of value after getting the value from the childhood? uh, yes, I mean, like, we get exposed to different values in the childhood, but at the same times, manipulation and abuse of those values are also something that we get exposed to at a very young age. And as we get like impacted by that specific possibility, that is also something which maligns our values and the way we execute it, right? So that's also there. Values can also be personal. No, when they are personal, it is morals. If values are associated with, I would say, very private and personal, then the private and personal sense of right and wrong is called morals. An individual can behold certain values, okay, but the individual beholding certain values, when interpreting those values as per one's comfort and choice, that will shape or create morals. Okay, be very clear with the concepts, because I have given you the diagram, explained it multiple times. All you need to do is revise it in your private space. That's how you will be able to understand that. Okay. So, can we say that moral is something related to, somewhere related to attitude? Morals are associated with your private sense of right and wrong, your individual interpretation related to what is right and what is wrong. Okay. So, the manifestation of it is attitude, the action part of it is attitude. So, you just need to have clarity about these technical terms. And as you revise, that's how you are able to develop a sense of clarity. All right. Now, so as we are developing our sense of understanding pertaining to these words, we can connect it with certain individual values. So certain values means at which level they are practiced. So if it is practiced at individual level, it will be associated with the value of creativity, value of freedom or liberty, value of survival, value of self development. In social affairs, or with respect to pertaining to social context, you can connect values whereby it increases cooperation in society, tolerance, compassion, empathy, and that is something which is helping a society to coexist per se. Ma'am, moral is an individual. Obviously, baat hai individual level. Sushmit, please revise what has been taught earlier. If you don't revise the slides that have been taught earlier, at least 3 revision is a must. If something was taught to you day before yesterday, it should have been you revised day before yesterday. Then it should have been revised yesterday, and then it should have been revised today. I mean, that's how the concept of revision goes. The theory of forgetting curve. If you actually revise it in the world of psychology, you will realize that in the absence of 5 revisions, a person has a tendency to forget the basic concept. And what is the method of revising when we speak of it? So there are 5 levels of revising: 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. 1 week, sorry, 24 hours, 1 day, 48 hours, 2 days, and third revision, I by mistake said 72 hours, not 72 hours, within a week, then within 15 days, and then within a month. That's what you're supposed to do. And when you're getting into this 5 levels of revision, then things will stay. It is disheartening to see that a student has, after multiple explanations of morality and difference between ethics and morality, with the diagram, with explaining the term at least 3 times, when you write that, ma'am, then morality is individual or social level, you feel like a failure, that your child is not revising and studying properly. Okay. So it has already been provided in the PPT. It has been an annotated PPT. All you needed was to just revisit it, not even like think about it, just revisit it twice or thrice, and it would have been a part of your thought process. So please get into revising it. All right. So now, SME, please help them out with the smaller issues. Now, with respect to this, when we are speaking of this given dimension, PPTs भेजा गया है. यशवंत बोल रहे हैं कि PPT has not been posted. So SME, please respond to him. It is there. I know in the morning also you had posted the links to few people. So please just help with these students who are struggling with it. Values are abstract and situational, whereas attitudes are specific judgment towards subject. Yes, values are general, and they will be guiding principles regarding what should be there, what ought to be there. Okay. And when we are talking about attitude, attitude is manifestation, the action means how you respond because of that value. So value is definitely abstract, or value is, we can say, it is more like a aspirational thought, and attitude is action. Okay, attitude is the action. How tough is it to understand? I'm repeating myself so many times. How tough is it, right? So value is like dhyan, and attitude is like karma. Well, that also will not be proper to say, because attitude is, yes, the manifestation of it, but before karma there is also some introspection. So values are something which are like a part of what should be there, what ought to be there. So उसमें भी hairline differences हो सकते हैं. So please respond to Mutum, SME. I think she needs some response. Okay, so with respect to this environmental values, when we are speaking of it, we all can see there is non vegetarianism, there is compassion towards animals. That is also something. So both are different types of environmental values, if you see to it. On one hand, we are talking about vegetarianism, and when we are talking about vegetarianism, so we are like exercising compassion towards animals. When we are thinking of non vegetarianism, with like ethical reflection, okay, or value based reflection, so value based reflection, then in that situation you'll realize that the earth does not grow enough vegetation to fulfill the basic needs of human beings. So in that situation it becomes unavoidable for us to depend on animal life to fulfill our basic needs pertaining to meat. So in this situation we can probably take care of responsible consumption. Like for example, we can see to it that what is readily available and probably what can be harvested, like pisciculture. So if you can harvest fish, or like nowadays the later day thinkers are saying that how about diversifying our source of protein? Why to only stick to few animals when we are sourcing our protein? So for that an experiment was conducted whereby specific bugs and beetles were cooked, prepared, and they were consumed. And it was observed that when specific bugs and beetles were cooked, prepared, and consumed, like people who did not know it's a bug and beetle and they ate it, they were like, yes, the meat is slightly different, but it was doable, it was decent enough. And after eating, when it was informed that it was a bug or a beetle, they were little surprised, taken aback. But they said that it was not so drastically different that it was unfit for consumption. So it was proposed that how about converting the bugs and beetles in a palatable way whereby it is suiting the palate of the people, and at the same time it is providing an alternate with respect to what is to be consumed. So it was again debated with respect to this given idea, that what ought to be consumed and what ought to be taken care of. So let's focus on the snakes now. So when we are speaking of this given dimensions associated with it, again non-vegetarianism, if we are connecting it with unethical behavior, even people who claim to be vegetarians but they are into consumption of milk, the way nowadays milk is procured and the way the cattle and milk are exploited, in an unethical manner, the cows or the buffaloes are inseminated. When they produce male calves, how mercilessly the male calves are sometimes sold or eliminated because they don't want bulls in the family. So in that situation, because they are unfit for cultivation also, they don't help in cultivating the farm. So in that situation the bulls are generally eliminated, the male child is sometimes killed or sold off. That's also the situation. And you can see that the way the milk is procured, the baby will be taken closer to the mother will start lactating, and in that moment the baby is forcefully removed and then the milk is taken out. So how ethical is it to procure milk in this manner? How ethical is it to consume that milk and consider that some kind of violence is not performed. So when again so much of methane is produced in the process of specific type of animals being reared, especially cattle and milk. So when we are talking about environmental values, we need to have a responsible take towards what we are consuming and how we are consuming, irrespective of the fact whether it is meat based products or non-meat based products like dairy products or other kind of, we can say, products coming from animals. Again, we can see under environmental values, you can think of chipko movement, but you don't need to remember so many examples. So even chipko movement and protectionism towards environment will be something that should be sufficient for you. Again, you can reflect upon organizational values. So every organization can also have its own set of values, like civil servants have their own organizational value which falls under their code of conduct and code of ethics as well. Again, you can see there can be values for an NGO, for a, like, government organization, a private organization. So all of it can also be connected. Again, further we can see constitutional values can also be there when we are talking about types of values, which is understood by fundamental rights. We can see the constitutional values in the fundamental duties in the DPSP. So all of it can be also further connected. Again, how do we gain human values? How do we, like, we can consider how do we acquire human values when we are speaking of this given sub dimension? Okay, so with respect to this, how we are acquiring a specific human value, when we reflect upon it, there are two sub segments. First is through socialization, when we are getting exposed to specific values as we are born in a family, and we are exposed to certain values from our very nascent stage, like in the family or in the educational institution or the society in which we are growing up, right? At the same time, when we are connecting this given possibility with respect to social control also helps us to inculcate values when coercion is put to action. When coercion is put to action, what does this term coercion mean? Coercion matlab hota hai कुटाई करके, ठीक है? When there is punishments levied upon not behaving in a specific manner. So values can be inculcated in us in two ways. Okay, so one is by socializing, means bringing a child, orienting a child into certain set of values, and second is when you expose the child into certain, we can say, coercive behavior, or into a certain set of possibilities whereby the child can be penalized or punished. All right, so that's what we all can consider. Is public servant posting personal life on social media ethical? Um, Not really, because see, if the civil servant is posting something which is regular and may not harm the sentiment or emotion, or we can consider not set a bad example for the people, that's perfectly fine. Because sometimes if a civil servant is posting about work, what work is being done, and people would not have been able to come to know about the work, then in that situation it is generating trust, generating faith. It is creating a good emotion, or faith in the system, trust in the system. So it is like building the bridge between demos and the administration. So in that situation it is great. But if a civil servant is posting a party pic in which the civil servant is drinking and dancing or something like that, then it is unbecoming of a civil servant, because it is not a behavior akin to that of a civil servant, as the civil servant is not setting the right example for the youth. Because maybe a civil servant can hold his pegs and quarters, but the youth may not. The youth may think that, oh, if the IS officer can drink, why not I? But the youth may not be so responsible while drinking. So it can encourage alcoholism in the society. And that's why when you are asking that, can private life or issues pertaining to private decisions, or something which the person is doing in private sphere, can it be posted? So it depends what is being posted, and what is the intention of posting, and what would be the short term long term repercussions of that posting, if that has to be calculated. All right, so TikTok video by civil servant, whether they are using TikTok or Insta, doesn't matter. What is the nature of content, that makes the difference. TikTok is just a brand, it's just a platform, isn't it, Vivek? So as many say, non-vegetarianism is lacks value of humanity. Yeah, I mean, like, that's also there, definitely, that's also there. Well, like, there are that's why ethics is a highly subjective discipline, and that's how you realize that multiple dimensions needs to be considered when you are like in the process of arriving at a conclusion, right? So that's also there when we are speaking of it. Again, so socialization, when we are speaking of this, yesterday only gave you the example that Aurangzeb was born and brought up in a specific environment, which shaped his ethos, his values, his choices, and his behavior in his growing up years, which led to he behaving the way he did to his brother and his father when we are speaking of it. So you can see children at a very young age, they play games like doctor, doctor, home, home, mother, mother, teacher, teacher, all those games, and in which they try to emulate, copy the behavior of adults, and whatever behavior they see the adults performing, they have a tendency to copy it. Like, for example, there was an advertisement, I still remember. In that advertisement, it said that there was this segment in which it said that there was this children, so they belong to two different households, and parents were chit chatting, having fun. So the daughter and the daughter of one of the couple and son of one of the couples, so they started playing family, and in that, what happened, that the daughter, she prepared some tea and she got it, and the son just threw it and he shouted out, and then the daughter, she started crying, so he just hit her, and the parents watched it from distance. So they shouted back, they're like, hey, what are you doing, and how dare you do that? And then the son was like, I'm playing the husband, so I'm supposed to throw the cup. So that was talking about what the child was seeing at home. And then, the girl's parents, they said that, why didn't you resist? So she was like, oh, I was the wife, no, so I should have been prepared to get the beating also. So that was talking about this household. So the thing is, children, they just emulate at a play stage. They are just copying what the adults are doing, and in the process of copying, they get socialized with the values, good and bad, which the adults are performing in their daily life. So that's something which all of you can connect with this. Again, with respect to social control, when we are speaking of it, values can also be inculcated through social control, whereby you are levying certain punishments, okay, or certain rewards to control the behavior. There can also be social ostracization, where you are isolating the person, you are completely socially detaching all links or relationships with that person, so that is ostracization. Okay, so that also can happen. There can be social appreciation or acknowledgement, which can also be associated with this inculcation of values when we are speaking of the given sub dimension. Now, as we are reflecting upon this given subsegment, so does it not depend on the individual on how they view anything? A person from an abusive household can learn not to be abusive to others. That happens later. These values or this kind of insight is developed later. That's perfectly fine. Like Eswari, what you're okay, I'll call you like, because I can understand you are a student from northeastern part of India, probably because of which I'm just taking a part of your name. So Liker Siushai, Liker Siushai, probably something like that. That's what your name is. So, like, I will just say that, when you're asking about this given possibility related to abusive household, our sense to how to behave and how not to behave, or what is ethical, what is not ethical, it happens later, when we are in late teenage or when we are growing adults. But as 5-year-old or 7-year-old, we don't have the sense what is right or wrong. But in these foundational years, our foundational values get built. That's why it is seen that children of abusive parents, even if they don't become abusive as growing adults, some disorder will happen. They may become too submissive, or they may become too suppressed and timid personality. They may become introverts. Okay, so it's not that even if some child can become too bad in studies, some child can become too bright, because the child is trying to find recluse and respite and relief through books. So the child may become academically very smart, but very introvert, very laid back, very, like I would say, dissociated. So there can be, I can say, different ways in which an individual responds to a specific situation, right? I hope you can understand that. By activities of child, we can know the values of their parents. So very true. So do values and no values uh, lead to manifestation of manners. Manners are manifestation of attitudes. Manners, the word itself holds manifestation. Okay. So manifestation of what? Manifestation of the attitude. And from where is the attitude getting built? It is coming from the values, right? Mishak? Yes, the seniors who are snubbing their juniors at workplace, they themselves have experienced some or the other form of abuse, or they have witnessed or seen some or the other form of abuse in their lifetime, and that is what has like impacted their, we can say, thought process and levels of existence and understanding, to be like specific. So as we are discussing about this given dimension, we all can see this component pertaining to like sources of values. When we are talking about it, we can connect sources of values with respect to, like, let me just mention this. So sources of values, under the component of sources of values, we can also see that our conscience can also be a value. So conscience can also guide us to our values. So value development is a continuous, cumulative, pay attention to the words that I'm writing, then I'll explain Heinz dilemma. So, continuous, cumulative, and highly interdependent process. Interdependent process. Touching upon, touching upon all aspects of personality. Touching upon all aspects of personality. Okay. So, factors that affect the structure of values can be both natural as well as environmental. Environmental. So natural is associated with, we can consider the biological makeup, like it can be associated with our gender, it can be associated with, like, the genetics, it is associated with the behavior which we have like, inherited from our parents, and it is environmental, the environment in which we are like born and brought up. So we can take it with respect to Lawrence Kohlberg. So Lawrence Kohlberg discusses 6 stages of moral development. Okay, and he explains the 6 stages of moral development through Heinz dilemma. Okay, so 6 stages of moral development. Okay, we can think of Kohlberg, and he explains this through, he explains it through Heinz dilemma. Okay, so Heinz dilemma. Now, what is Heinz dilemma? Let us try to understand. Now, I will put you to this experiment of Lawrence Kohlberg, and we will put this possibility to test, that at which stage of moral development have you reached. Okay, so we all can reflect upon this given dimension. Okay, So when we are speaking of it, here you will realize the conscience, how evolved your conscience is. That is something which is going to determine the level of moral development or value based development that has taken place in your case. All right. So please try to use simple words, because it is which tough word did I ask, like use, Yogita? Please type the word. I'll give you the explanation of that word, because maybe, Yogita, your language is that of a standard sixth kid, and the level at which you need to have the language is that of undergraduation level. The language which I am using is as simple as that of NCRT standard 10th or 11th level, whereas the examiner expects you to have the language of an undergrad. And in fact, the standard of the exam is that of, I would say, somewhere between graduation and post graduation. And the truth is, Yogita, it seems that you were not present on the very first day, because that is something which I had shared, like on the very first day, that majority of you stopped working on your vocabulary after standard 8th. So when was it that, Yogita, you made a conscious effort to work on your synonyms, antonyms, and one word substitution? Maybe in standard 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Did you try it in standard 10th, 11th, 12th, graduation first year, second year, third year? And because 8, 9 years of gap associated with vocabulary building exercise has happened, the limited set of words that you know is not capable or sufficient to qualify this exam. So rather than lowering the standard of the class, it is better you pull up your standards by pulling up your socks and trying to catch up with the level with which 90% of the class is catching up. Because why do you want to be left behind? Why do you want to be falling back? So that's why I had also suggested that every time you come across a new term spoken by me, please note that word down towards the back of your copy, or like register or page that you are like using, so that once the lecture is over or the break is given, you also use dictionary. That's the purpose of introducing new words to your realm of ideas. And I'm purposefully using this word realm of ideas so that you pay attention to this term as well. Yogita, again, once for you specially, please visit the previous year essay topics only, topics of 2021 and 2022, the 8 sentences given by UPSC, just 8 sentences, and ask yourself, are you capable to handle it even after 6 months? If yes, great. If no, that means you have to work on your vocabulary. I hope I'm getting clear, Yogita, and I hope all of you are understanding this very possibility. I mean, like, I can see 90% of you are able to catch up with the level. And Yogita, I also believe that this is your first session, because if it would have been your third session, you won't have been giving this suggestion to me to work on my language. Rather, you would have worked upon your language by now. So be more punctual for the sessions. It is a 250-mark paper, and it is associated with too many marks, and it also makes a massive level. When we are speaking of it, it creates a massive impact in your essay writing. Okay, so go ahead with this given dimension. Okay, so as you pull up your socks with respect to your language building exercise, I mean, like, actually it is a matter of shame that why teachers in school days do not encourage children to have good quality command over language. Because see, it is the power of communication, no, which establishes a sense of understanding between you and the examiner. And this is applying to all students. In your mains exam, what is creating clarity? It is your language. The mains answer, how does the examiner know that you really know it? When you are able to articulate it in your own words, right? So the concepts you have memorized and you are like verbalizing it, or you're writing it, right? So in the interview also, when the examiner asks something, if you're thinking in Hindi and translating it in English, or you're thinking in your mother tongue and translating it in English, imagine the kind of rigor you'll undergo. So rather than getting into critical reflection or capability to comment upon a issue or a topic, half the time you will be wasting your time just to think and recall the right word or the proper word. So it is a serious advice, a sincere advice, that topic after topic, please make a list of new words that you learn, memorize it, and put it to use. Okay, this is a like earnest suggestion to all the students who are serious about preparing for civil services level. The services are not going to lower their standard for the sake of a student who is struggling with academics. Okay, and the services do not care what is the academic background of a student. And that's why I've seen even Hindi medium students or vernacular language students like Bengali medium students, Gujarati medium students, Tamil medium students, when they switch to English medium after standard 10th or after standard 12th, they really work an extra mile to build upon their language to have a formidable impact in the mains exam. Okay, so this is an earnest request to all of you, that see who your competitor is and how far your competitor is ready to fight. So if you go lazy that the language is too tough, make it bilingual, make it like simple, that is something which will lower your game. Don't lower your game. Pull up your game. Make it at an advanced level. Play it at an advanced level. Okay, now, so with respect to this, when we are starting with this Heinz dilemma, Kohlberg's experiment, now all of you are going to be a part of this experiment when we are speaking of this given dimension. So, what happened was that there is this image. In the first image you can see there is this Lawrence Kohlberg, and Kohlberg is like, as all of you can see this given dimension, that Kohlberg is thinking about this very possibility of getting his wife cured. He goes to the hospital. When he goes to the hospital, he is like thinking about the possibility that how to save his wife, and then in that process the doctor says that there is a medicine that can still save his wife's life, but the like some medicine will be required, and the medicine is really very expensive. So he goes to church, he prays, he says that, oh my god, how will I be able to afford such an expensive medicine which is of $2,000, and but at the same time I want to save my wife's life. Okay, now when he goes to the chemist, who is the only chemist selling that medicine in the city, and when he goes and requests the chemist, then the like the chemist is saying that the cost of the medicine is $2,000, and I worked very hard in the R&D part of it, the research and development part of it, to develop it, so I don't care that the medicine's actual price is only $200. I will charge $2,000. If you can pay for it, then please pay, otherwise go. So Lawrence Kohlberg, he requested that, see, I can pay you $1,000 as of now, and please give me the medicine in advance, and I will pay you in small installments. Okay, so when he requests for that, the chemist refused. He was like, no, I am not going to accept $1,000 and give you like rest of the medicine on installments. That's not happening. You just better go, because I'm not running charity, and I'm not interested to do charity or provide any kind of support in any way when we are speaking this given simultaneous possibility. All right, so what happened was, with respect to this, when we are like further moving ahead, we can see that Lawrence Kohlberg, when he is thinking that how to gain this given possibility, how to cover up this given possibility, what happens is that he just reaches the shop one night and he steals the medicine. He's like, I won't be able to make the payment of $2,000, and neither I'm able to make an arrangement because no one is giving me a loan of $2,000. So neither I'm able to make an arrangement nor I am able to pay the $2,000. So it's better that I will steal the medicine. So he stole the medicine one night, whereby no one noticed that he is stealing it. And after taking that medicine, he took it to the doctor. The doctor provided that medicine to his wife, and his wife, within a short period of time, she was cured. She was perfectly healthy. Now the question starts with respect to you. Put yourself in the condition of Lawrence Kohlberg. Lawrence Kohlberg, I'm saying. Put yourself in the condition of Heinz. Okay. Suppose you are Heinz, and suppose your partner or your mother or your loved one is like sick, and the person needs to be cured, and the person when the person needs to be cured, the person needs a specific medicine, and in the similar manner you don't have the amount to pay. You go and you request the chemist, and the chemist also refuses in the similar manner, that I'm not going to do charity, and I need the entire amount. You request your friends, family, etc. for some loan, they are not ready to give you any loan. You don't have any property to put it, like, at stake and then get some amount, like in exchange of it. You don't have anything as such, so you're stuck. And in that pressurizing situation, you commit a theft. And after committing the theft, you get that medicine, you provide it for your loved one, whether wife or a partner or whosoever, like parents, and whosoever was suffering, that person gets cured. Now, going by the principle of moral development, once the person is cured, what would you do as a response to the situation? What will be your next step of action? Will you correct the situation? If yes, then how? And if you won't correct the situation, what will be your response? Okay. We would see difference between affirmative, mitigative situations and circumstances. Okay. Atharv, let us be more explicit in it. Okay. How does subconscious mind influence value system? You'll understand it, Vivek, once I'm explaining it through 6 stages of moral development. Meanwhile, you focus on responding to the question. Okay, so Abhishek, you're saying that you're going to surrender before the chemist and the police. All right, okay. मनी इज नॉट अबव द लाइफ ऑफ द इनोसेंट पर्सन, वो तो ठीक है, लेकिन फिर करोगे क्या? चोरी कर दी, उसको दवा दिला दिया, नाउ व्हाट आर यू गोइंग टू डू दैट विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू इट? साहिल, okay, I won't steal. I will allow the destiny to play its role. Okay. So, destiny to play its role, what he did was wrong, because stealing is not the solution to cure wife. Stealing is a social evil, and every criminal has justification for his or her crime. Okay. So, justification does not obviate a crime. Now, this is for Yogita and such students, that your friends can use terms like obviate. Okay. So, you just have to see that on one hand, a few students have this level of vocabulary, and on the other hand, you are struggling to even catch up with the words. So don't you have to pull up your socks and start sprinting to catch up with the language, right? Okay. You'll pay 1,000 immediately and remaining in installment. So that's what I'm saying, XY. The person is not ready to accept the installment. Okay, Anubhav, when you're thinking of returning the money, there is a fair chance that the person will be not only taking the money, the person will be like, you have set an unethical example, you have set an unjust example for the society. So many people will get inspired, and not everyone is going to commit theft and come and surrender. So there's a fair chance that the chemist will call the police and get you arrested. So just by paying the amount, or paying the amount with extra money or extra compensation, is also going to get you arrested. Let us be very clear about it. So you are going to pay by working hard for the chemist, return the money, surrender. Okay, so I'll earn and give back, confess and pay. So I've, like, within a short time, borrow, surrender after some time. Okay, so commit theft. Okay, all right. We'll arrange the money. So that's what money was not getting arranged. So return the money. All right. So correct the situation. Okay, this. So okay, majority of you leave the wife and get married again. Okay, all right. So I will correct the situation. Okay, this. So all kinds of extreme examples are also coming. Interesting. So okay, so there would be people like you who cannot afford it. So you will file a petition. Petition where there is some overlapping in your typing. Some Chinese print has come in the way it has appeared. Your font has appeared, Mrityunjay. Okay, so okay, I appreciate your insight, Mrityunjay. The girl doesn't have to know and can pay later to the chemist, even some more dollars. That's what I'm saying, that paying extra is still not going to rectify the situation for the society. So you will be arrested and put behind the bars. Okay. So earning and paying back is something which we all can consider. So there's also conventional level moral thinking. He can steal and no law should punish him. Okay, so avoid it next time committing. Okay, so I can just see what all of you are coming up with when it comes to the solution part, and I can read what all of you are like. Maybe I would take the help from NGO. Okay, request the hospital, GoPro. Okay, all that. Okay, all right, fine. So a lot of you are getting close to the solution, but majority of you are not. So for explaining Heinz's dilemma, we can see that like Lawrence Kohlberg discusses six stages of moral development. And when we are reflecting upon the six stages of moral development as discussed by like Lawrence Kohlberg, we can see all the possibilities which are there. So let the society know what situation he did, and the society will pardon. Okay, all right. So there are so many different versions to the truth. Now, this Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development, as you can see here, the age range is written. I mean, like there are two pages, but they are just one and the same. Remember, this diagram is similar to this diagram. It's just that few points are missing here, which are given over here, and which few points are given over here, which are missing over here. And that's why I have like incorporated like both the diagrams. Like age range is given over here, which is not given over here, but here we can see there are six stages which are discussed, and these six stages associated with three levels is like given over here. You can see that level, and then there are like with respect to first level there are two stages, then second level there are two stages again, and third level there are two stages, so six stages. And there is a description also which is attached over here. So this description aspect is, so age and description has to be read from here. Okay, age and description has to be read from here, and the details related to level 1 and or rather the three levels and six stages have to be read from here. Okay, so to simplify the two, I'm just trying to blend it over here and explain it to all of you. So with respect to level 1, which is pre-conventional morality, as the term goes, pre-conventional morality means morality before it gets built. So our like morality is something which gets built at a specific age. When we are speaking of this given dimension, our morality, it gets built after a certain age that we attain. So the stage 1 is associated with children belonging to 3 to 4 years, and this is the age when the component of punishment and obedience plays a very important like level. Children tend to behave in a specific manner whereby they just avoid the act to avoid punishment. They don't want to they act obedient just because they don't want to be beaten up or they don't want to be punished. So because at young age children are so insecure, they just want love, affection and care of their loved ones. So in this given situation, we all can consider this given possibility that a child may try to be obedient, whereby the child is not having a moral compass, the sense of right and wrong. The child is only behaving correctly so that the child is accepted, the child is completely accepted in the family, and there is no punishment levied upon the child for the act that the child performs when we speak of it. Okay, again we can connect it with stage 2. The stage 2 is associated with rewards, and when we speak of rewards, we all can connect it with the right way to behave. What is the right way to behave, is and how to get rewarded. So a child, you can see this kind of behavior is possessed by children between 6 to 7 years. They try to behave properly so that they are labeled as good children. They get candies, they can if they are insisting that I need cycle, and the parents say you study very hard, and if you top the class then we will gift you a cycle. So the child is like continually studying, and by the time the child is even if the child stands second, the parents purchase the cycle. That okay, you worked very hard, we could see that you put in your best foot forward, so you deserve the cycle, we are giving you. So the child is motivated to behave not because of some moral understanding. The child is motivated to behave in a specific manner because the child aspires for a reward. So it is pre-conventional morality. As you can notice, the word pre-conventional morality means even before the ideas or insights of morality is built. Okay, again we can see the second level is conventional morality. Conventional morality means when you are born in a cultural setup and you develop your sense of right and wrong. So this is associated with stage 3 and stage 4. Stage 3 is generally associated with 12 to 13 years old children, and stage 4 is generally associated with 15 to 17 years old children. But you need to understand that most of the adults freeze in this stage. freeze in this stage. Most of the adults freeze in this stage when we are speaking of it. Okay. So when we are talking about this component of level 2, so in this level 2, that is the conventional morality, we all can see that in this conventional morality, we care more about what others will think of us, what others will perceive of us. Okay. We just want to avoid any kind of blame. We are constantly seeking their approval, and we are seeking that everyone treats us for having our good behavior, good people, like, well mannered people, nice people. These are the people who follow their duty. So there is a possibility in this stage 3, whereby we all can see that people aspire to have an interpersonal accord whereby there is social behavior, there is social approval, thick level of social approval. There is a constant aspiration to be called or to be referred as a good person. So there is the good person syndrome. That's what we all can consider. Whereas in stage 4, we can see it is associated with authority. And when we are talking about authority, the behavior is driven. Okay. It is driven by obeying authority and conforming to a specific social order. That's what we all can connect with, or we can understand. All right. So now in this, like when we are talking about the 4 stages, why did I say that majority of the people, they, like, their development like freezes at the stage 4? See, I mean, like, when people think that a majority of the people, they have a tendency to think that, no one watched while committing the crime. Already, the fellow, he knew that the price of the medicine was $200. He has charged so much from so many people, and he will continue to charge the $2,000 from others. So the man is making enough money. So there is no potential loss that he is referring, like, incurring. And no one has seen me. I will not get caught. So majority of the people will be trying to shove the situation under the carpet, that mitti dalo is pe, kaun dhyan rakhta hai. So let us not care for the situation, who is actually noticing this situation, and let me just ignore it and forget it. That is the attitude which majority of the individuals will have towards this given situation. Again, when it comes to this given possibility, there is the stage 5, whereby some individuals will have a sense of understanding that, though the person cannot prove, the chemist cannot prove whether I stole it or not. Okay. But not only something illegal has happened, something immoral has also happened. A wrong example has been set for the society, a wrong behavior has been set for the society. We can also understand that the possibility that something wrong has happened, that recognition that something wrong has happened, will encourage few people that, okay, I will surrender before the police, I will get arrested, and I will also pay a fine. And after paying the fine, I'll see to it that the person who has manufactured this miracle drug, because of which my loved one was saved, the life of my loved one was saved. Had the person not manufactured this drug, the person would not have been saved. So out of sheer gratitude, not only I'll pay the amount in full, but also with compensation some extra amount. I will serve the entire duration of punishment, and along with that, I will see to it that I thank the person with a deep sense of gratitude. So all that stuff which people who are saying that I will be obeying the law, I will be behaving in a specific manner. So all those individuals who are thinking of it, they are motivated by their internal locus of control. Okay. They are recognizing that something wrong has happened, and what has the wrong that has happened is not merely legal, it has been illegal, it is also something which is immoral, and they are trying to fix it with their own levels of, I would say, commitment and indication. So that's something like a stage 5 level of development when we speak of it. What is stage 6 level of development? When you realize that your problem is not merely your problem. Remember, we were quoting about Gandhiji when he was traveling from Durban to Pretoria, that what happened to him was, if he would have considered is it as exclusive to what was happening to him, then it would have been a condition that we could have connected it with the given scenario, that Gandhiji would have, fought a case for himself and won it. The truth is, he realized that my concern is not merely my concern. It is the concern of millions of other people who are also suffering from this level of apartheid, this level of discrimination. So when we are speaking of Mahatma Gandhi, he became from Mohandas to Mahatma because he could see the larger concern of the demos. So people who are guided by their conscience. So here comes Vivek and all other students who are talking about, ma'am, what is the role of conscience? So individuals who are guided by their conscience, not just by rules, regulations of their society, when primarily they are guided by their conscience, even if certain solutions are not lying, they can see the larger picture of the problem and they can offer solutions for the larger picture. For example, I remember Mrityunjay was getting close to that solution. He was hinting to the solution. It is something which I can encourage to the rest of you as well. So, pertaining to this given area, as we are reflecting upon this given question, Mrityunjay, I'm supporting your point as well as few more students who are coming up with something similar. What exactly needed to be done was that a person needed to think that it's not just I who is suffering. There can be millions of other people belonging to vulnerable sections whose loved ones might be suffering in the absence of this medicine. So, the moment you are saying, oh, I'll take the blame, oh, I'll get arrested, oh, I'll just like shove the issue under the carpet, or I will marry another woman, or any random solution that you are offering, it is associated with your stage of development. If you are thinking of leaving the person and moving ahead, you are probably in stage 1 or stage 2 level of moral development, whereby you are just guided by punishments and rewards. That's it. In stage 3, stage 4, you are acting goody good before the society, that okay, I stood for my loved one, or I'm ready to take punishment for my loved one. But when you are guided by benevolence, when you are guided for the larger public good, you are realizing that my crisis is not a lonesome crisis. So even if you are getting arrested, even if you are like surrendering, even if you are paying the entire amount with fine, still you're writing to Ministry of Health, you're writing to the Department of Health, you're writing to various other NGOs or international bodies. You are bringing this issue to their concern, that in moments of desperation, this is the crime I did. I don't want other human beings to succumb to this given problem, and other human beings to fall into this trap whereby they are forced to commit this crime. So how about the state coming up with compulsory licensing or any such initiative, whereby the generic medicine, the generic version of the medicine is produced and that is provided. For the production of the generic medicine, the chemist is heavily compensated or rewarded, so that the chemist can continue with his research and development. His entire medicine is not produced in a generic manner. The patent continues, and only limited batch is produced in a generic way, and only when the doctor is prescribing it to potential patients who are really from vulnerable section, only they are able to avail such a medicine. Okay, along with that, it is the medicine is not sold from commercial outlets or regular shops. That is only sold from government outlets only when the doctor is prescribing that generic version, so that random people don't take benefit of it, only the real needy benefit from it. And the chemist also continues to make money, so that the person can invest that money in R&D of the future medicines, other salts which can benefit the larger society. So it is a win-win for all. It is win-win for the masses, it is win-win for the chemist, it is win-win for the law and order. It generates social justice and it takes care of the larger masses. Is that getting clear, this solution to all of you? Right? So, when we are speaking of this given level of understanding, when you are guided by your moral conscience, it is then you can see that the likes of Mahatma Gandhi, the likes of, we can say, Martin Luther King, the likes of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln did not want, if you read the life history of Lincoln, Lincoln did not want to become the protagonist of anti-racism and safeguard the interests of people of color. He did not aspire for something like that. It happened so that when he was pushed to a situation where he had to decide that how to maintain democracy and the human rights and to do away with civil war, and at the same time look into the immediate conditions and situations. So he saw the larger picture, and he saw what ought to be there in the society even if it does not exist. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, there was no law related to abolition of sati. So he saw the larger picture, what ought to be there, and even though the law does not exist, how to create that possibility. So, people who are guided by their inner conscience, mind it, people who are guided by their inner conscience, they are the people who are able to shape or drive humanity to better solutions. Okay, so these individuals are the ones who, like people living in the stage 6, are the ones who provide solutions for humanity. Okay, they create new laws, create new laws, they create new laws, they shape fresh concerns for humanity. Okay. So, when we are speaking of this given possibility, we all need to understand the dynamics associated with it. But what about immediate requirement? That's what I said, Labdhi. The question which whenever you get a case study, please pay attention to the details of the question. I said that you have already committed the crime. You have already given the medicine to your loved one and the person has been cured. Now, what will be your next step of action? That's what I said. So, how about the medical immediate requirement? You have already fulfilled. And after the fulfillment, what is the next step of action that you would have taken? That was my question, right? So, that's what. So, this conscience, individual principles is pertaining to the inner conscience, the conscience being guided accordingly. Okay, Sushmit? So was Lincoln more empathetic? No. I'm not saying, I'm not comparing Lincoln with Gandhi, Gandhi with Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King with Nelson Mandela. No. I'm just saying all these individuals, they were not guided only by the law of the existing scenario, the rules, regulations that were existing in the society. They looked beyond the laws, beyond the regular framework of what is existing. They looked what ought to exist, and they could look beyond what was existing because of their inner conscience, because of their conscience which was guiding them towards what ought to be there, what is the right thing to do, which is also called the inner voice, which is also called the gut feeling, it is also called the sixth sense, it is also called the voice of God. Conscience, it is there as a subtopic in your second last chapter. I will be discussing it in greater detail. Meanwhile, you can just get introduced to the term conscience. Conscience, which is also a guiding principle, which also shapes and which also strengthens our moral development. It can give direction to the it can give direction to the course of action that unfolds before all of us. These Mondays, Tuesdays, I mean Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays are so hectic with 3 sessions. And what happens is, like, I have my lunch at around 4:15, 4:30. And after having lunch at 5 o'clock, when you take the session, there is acid reflux because the food does not get digested and you're constantly speaking, and it's not regular talking, because regular talking is at a different pitch, you are like casual, and the effort is from here. When you teach, the effort is from the underbelly, and when you are pulling all the energy from underneath your belly, it starts impacting your stomach and the digestion process. And that's why I keep drinking water, because I tend to get that acid reflux because of like late eating, and of course because there is a session before this one. So that's why I apologize for the in between 2 minutes pauses that happens because of drinking the water. Now, so no, this is not an issue associated with gastroenterology. Okay, this is just an, and no fennel seeds, nothing. All I need is rest, because after eating food, everyone deserves to remain quiet and take rest. But somehow that luxury is not there, and neither of the batches could have been like cancelled. So because mains is approaching, few students are writing mains, so they needed to be supported. So I also could not say no, because initially I was pushing. I was like, give one batch little later, but it was like not possible. So I'm like just trying to give it now. So with respect to this, as we are like reflecting this given dimension, so this can be given to all dispensary owned by the government. This is not all dispensary, like few femina. Okay, so that's also something which we can talk about. So what about the perennial social problem like caste discrimination faced by the certain sections of the society? Yes, that's also there. Like for example, when suppose I'm giving you this example, and all of you can probably connect with this given dimension, that there are situations whereby, like, our seniors, maybe our parents, maybe our relatives also succumb to stage 4. Like for example, suppose in someone's family, someone has like gone for intercaste marriage. The person is belonging to, like, let's say, upper caste, and ends up marrying a Dalit girl or a Dalit boy. And suppose the entire family is ostracizing. And suppose you, as the younger generation who's motivated by ideals and values of equality and justice, so you, when you ask your parent that it is in our constitutional value to exercise equality towards all, and the person has married a human being, the person that my relative has married sounds or looks like a decent person, a nice person, is well settled and is kind and caring to our relative, and the person is also like seems to be of high moral values. So I don't see any problem with that individual. So why are you boycotting or ostracizing? So there is a fair chance that the relative or parent may say this thing to you, that what to do, the society does not approve of it, or how, what will the society say, or if everyone is boycotting and we start talking, it will look like we are walking against the tide, we are trying to act extra smart, so people will also misbehave with us or they will not talk to us. So, this fear of being left out, the fear of not getting accepted, the fear of, not taking the right stand is there in majority of the people. They lack the moral courage to stand for the right thing and call it the right thing, to stand for the right situations and say that, yes, because it is right, I stand for it. And because majority of the people lack it, that's why it is stage 4 of development, and that's why I said it is not associated with like only 15 to 17-year old. Majority of the adults across the world get stuck at this stage 4. They become conformists and they always want to do things as per social acceptability. Let me do things which will be accepted by society, or because of which I will be appreciated by society by and large. Okay, so that's what like we are considering, while ignoring our beloved one's death, not just saying staying on our ethics. Yes, satisfy social imagine, but inside they will always hurt guilt. What should right approach for decision? Anjali, first thing, improve upon your grammar. Please purchase Renan Martin and work on your sentence formation. Your sentence formation is bleeding, okay, when it comes to writing incorrect grammar. Second thing, please be more attentive while I explain the question, because I just hyphenated the same issue to another friend of yours where I said that the you have already committed the theft. Now, what is going to be the next course of action? Are you going to accept the crime, or what will be the next course of action to correct the situation? If you would have paid attention to the question, then you won't have said that what if the person would have died and this and that. Why will the person die? Because you've already provided the medicine and the person's life is saved. I said, what would be the next course of action? This is probably the third time I'm saying it. First time I said it when I gave the question to all of you to think. Second time I said it when one of your friends faltered, and this is the third time. I hope the fourth, like any fourth student, doesn't come up. Okay, now, so So with respect to this, when we are talking about this given like segment, we all can like associate our stages of moral development. And just imagine when Jyotiba Phule and Savitri Bai Phule, they were continually going for like female education, they were working for the female education, and they were propagating the education of women. At that time, so many people were spitting on them, even throwing human excreta on them, constantly speaking bad mouthing about them. Oh, they are going to educate girls, and after educating the girls, what are they going to make them? Collectors? Are they going to make them doctors? What is the purpose of educating a girl child? Or some people saying that, oh, if the girls are educated, which bridegroom will marry them? And how unfit she would be. And so many other slangs, cuss words, and continually experiencing the criticism. In such, I would say that in the face of such a situation, just try to reflect upon this given scenario when we are speaking of it, that if they would have got discouraged like other people, that oh, what will be the society saying, how will we stay, we will not be invited for weddings, people will shy away from talking to us. So in such a situation, what would have happened? In such a situation, due to lack of social acceptance and approval, the person would have not have the moral courage to fight for the righteousness that should have been established in the society. So in stage 5, you are able to differentiate between moral and legal right. But in stage 6, you are continually guided by your inner conscience about what is the right thing to do, what ought to be done, and how to come for a larger solution for the masses who might be stuck in our condition, in our similar situation, and how to create a better version or a better possibility for them per se. All right. So I hope all of you are able to understand it. What is slang? Slang means gali, using a cuss word. Okay. So that's what it implies. Um, why to take everyone's approval? It should be an individual decision. Our parents' generation is the last who think a lot about society before all that matters, intercaste and all. Oh, Priyanka, is it so? Can it not be possible that a boy in your class comes wearing skirt? Will you be comfortable talking to that boy who is wearing skirt? That's the question. Or will you be like laughing and cracking joke upon him? And if the boy says that I'm very comfortable wearing a skirt, it's so free, it's open, I feel so comfortable. And men in South India, they wear veshti or dhoti. So why can't I wear a skirt? So rather than calling the boy Ranveer Singh or joking or jesting about the sexuality of the boy, how many people will accept that yes, it's his personal choice. If he is comfortable wearing a skirt, let him wear a skirt. Are you getting it? So when we are speaking of framing opinions and trying to stick to a specific, like we can say, level of existence, like if someone comes to know that my best friend or one of my good friends is a homosexual, how many people will continue to be friends? How many people have friends who are transgenders? There is not only discomfort related to one aspect when we are speaking of it. Okay, when we are speaking of, yes, Cherub, I'll try to get back to you and explain it to you once again. So when we are talking about the stage 4, majority of the people are scared to, I mean, for example, for any right standpoint, if you are standing for it, which is the right thing to do, but if your friends are quitting upon you, your family is quitting upon you, though you are correct and you're constantly explaining what's wrong, guys, I'm just standing for the right thing, why are you people overreacting? But everyone is like, you don't try to become the Mahatma, you don't try to, always do the right thing, please, you quit upon it, let others take the initiative, you just save yourself. Will you have the moral courage that even if your parents stop talking, your friends stop talking, you will continue to do the right thing? That's something that is put to test, because thinking about intercaste marriage is easier for your generation. For your parents generation, it's a big thing, right? So for your generation, maybe having a trans friend or a homosexual friend and being comfortable about it can be little big thing. That how about my friend started doubting that my friend is homosexual, so maybe I'm also affiliated to him or her in the same relation. The person can think like that. So think of it. With changing social morals and changing social dilemmas, the idea of right and wrong and sticking to the comfort level, comfort zone, because in different age groups and different, we can say, communities, the idea of comfort is different. So you need to reflect upon that, right? That's great, Anubhav. So it is easy to criticize. So very true. It is very easy to criticize, but hard to become. That's very true. So that's amazing, Gulab. So there is Khudiram Bose. Yes, everyone wants that. Let Khudiram Bose be born, but not in our own house. So very true. That's also a very popular saying in eastern parts of India. In that part, you'll always listen to people saying like that. Let the revolutionary be born, but in the neighborhood. So that's there. So I hope all of you are getting a clarity about this given dimension. We are more modernized than our parents. I mean, you are modernized with respect to few ideals, but every generation is relatively more modern than the previous generation. Like your mother is more modern than your grandmother. Your grandmother will be like, oh, she's trying to act too smart. Your grandmother is more modern than your great great grandmother. That's also there. Every passing generation is better than the previous one. You will be more modern or exposed in various aspects compared to me. Maybe you are technologically more smart than me. That can be possible, right? But we need to understand that with every passing generation, new set of ethical dilemmas emerge, and with new set of ethical dilemmas, we are exposed to how far we will be courageous enough to find the larger solutions to the problems that we are exposed to, right? How far are we ready to stretch? Okay, I hope all of you are able to understand this. Is morality rooted in the power and perpetuating the dominance of a group of individuals? Well, morality is rooted in our own sense of understanding of what is right and wrong. And in the interpretation of our own morality, elements of courage, elements of clarity, elements of socialization, who all have socialized us, all of it plays a critical role, Jadav. Okay. So I hope you are understanding that. Cherub, you had asked stage 5. Stage 5 is like, it is above stage 4. You are not ready to only be obedient or act goody good. You are ready to understand that what is ethical and what should have been done. You are not doing things only for the sake of legally abiding by rules and regulations. You are doing things because you are able to weigh or measure whether it is morally correct or not. Okay, whether it is ethically it should have been done or not. So in stage 5, the moral compass is up. At least you are evaluating things from moral perspective, not just whether it is legally correct or not, society will accept it or not. And stage 6 is when you are reflecting it from the perspective of conscience. All right. So I hope all of you are like able to understand this, and this is kind of eye opening for all of you. So as this is eye opening for all of you, you are understanding that how conscience can be a source of value. Conscience as a source of value. Conscience also guides and shapes our value, and it can also shape the value of a given society. It can create new values. Okay, there can be other sources of value as well. So the other sources of value, we will reflect upon it after the break. How family, how educational institutions can be a source of value. Let us take a break. It is 7 3, and let us take a break for 15 minutes as we take it usually. So 7:18 we shall resume. थोड़ा सा हेक्टिक है, 20 तारीख तक हेक्टिक है, लेकिन बीच में 15 दिन छुट्टी भी तो ली थी, उधर गुवाहाटी चली गई थी और ये वो, तो अभी तो काम करना ही पड़ेगा।
अच्छा मैम, वो एग्रीमेंट
All right, welcome back. As we were discussing about sources of values, and as we are substantiating about it related to sources of values, so exposure is necessary to think upon beliefs. It's more about who's more exposed to these things and can bring it under the aspect of dhyan karma. For example, exposed to value education is what is required to be modernized. It doesn't matter on generations, rather to have deep sense of knowledge and reflecting upon it is necessary. So true, so very true. So according to, you have to surrender and pay the fine and do something better. No, it's not like something better, it's like something about reflecting upon the larger picture. No, I'm not in Guwahati. I went to Guwahati for those 10 days. So I like it. There was a meditational thing which I pursue twice in a year. So for that, I apologize. The mic was like by mistake. It touched the pen and it became this. And the property dealer had called up and I had to like converse with him. He's like, ma'am, you're like really overworked. So yeah, that's there. Now, with respect to it, when we are further discussing how values of the family can be changed, who are continuing child marriage. Yeah, that's a very profound question, Anjan. You know, it needs multi-pronged approach. It needs the approach of the administration going coercive. It is sad to see when the ministers also support such an act, when group child marriages are taking place and they discourage the police to make arrests or take some action, especially during I would say this is something which also took up or took place when we are connecting with this given problem or this given scenario in Rajasthan, that the police officers were present and the marriage took place. So, to make corrective steps to discourage child marriage, when we are talking about it, it needs short term and long term approach. In short term, you need to be more coercive in terms of execution of law. You need to make arrests with respect to the parents and adults who are present at least 24 or 48 hours in lockup, and with respect to parents, registering a case against them. So some coercive action is required, and in long term you need to focus on girl child education. If girl child will be provided with higher education, it will automatically articulate into delayed marriages, also improving security of women in the society. If girl child security improves in the society, you will realize that the freedom of movement, the possibility of, we can say, existence will also change. Like for example, you can see the intensity of child marriage is relatively lesser in, we can consider, Odisha or in many southern parts of India, and there the security of women is quite high. Whereas if you move to Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, security of women is quite vulnerable. I've seen, like, whenever I have traveled to these states for not Bihar but Lucknow, or I have taught in Jaipur offline centers, and I have seen that students, they become very unnerved when, if it is like a 5 to 8 batch, the students will become very unnerved by the time it is 8, especially girls. They are like restless to leave the class by the time it's quarter to 8. I cannot stretch the lecture even by 10 minutes. It's like that. They also encourage that, ma'am, how about you take an early class like 4 to 7 o'clock, so that we can leave early, because the city is not so safe. So earlier Lucknow I had been something like 4 years back, but Jaipur was just last year November, and I could see the visible sense of discomfort in girls in terms of traveling. Whereas when I traveled to Bhubaneswar, that is Odisha, I saw that children were so cool. Even at 9 o'clock, the batch was from 6 to 9, and I stretched it up till 9:10. People were very cool. After the class was over, no one was rushing to pack their bags and run away. Everyone was like chit chatting in a relaxed pace, moving out. I went to my hotel. I had my dinner. After that, I was taking a walk at 10 o'clock, just outside the hotel, on the street, to just catch some fresh air. And also, the market was open till 11. So, the small market area. So, I was taking a walk. I saw like young girls or young boys casually like walking down. I also saw, tribal women with their daughters returning with baskets. So there was a visible sense of ease and comfort. No one was under the fear of molestation or abuse. So it makes a lot of difference in terms of the society also in which you live. So that's also there, as you were asking about this given question. Anjan. But still it persists in Kandamal. Yes, it exists in Kandamal because you can see that the challenge pertaining to Kandamal is associated with the kind of violence, the kind of strain that that area has experienced. If you remember the Kandamal violence, it was so severe. So that's what I'm saying. Until and unless people are educated, they are empowered, higher education is granted to the girl child, more job opportunities or professional opportunities are offered to the girl child, and the environment, the society is secure for the girl child. So these are some, like, and propagating the message of getting the girl child like not married early, because it can lead to maternal mortality or infant mortality. It is a risk for the mother and child's health both. So when you are empowering the child with respect to education, healthcare, professional benefits, as well as security of the women, so this is a long time effort. And in short term, when you are coercive, that's how you can like create a difference. So that's something we all can understand, this given possibility. So influence of spouse as a source of value. um well, that can also happen in terms of when, like, when partnership is built on deep sense of respect, then in that situation the value of one can inspire the other, because after all, your partner or your spouse is what, a great friend. And don't your friends influence with their value systems when you are going wrong, or maybe you are presuming something wrong, then they can always guide you that probably what is an alternate behavior which you can consider or work upon, right? So but still persist because some coercive measures can be fine. So that's also there, ma'am. Can we have the to remove the orthodox ideology? Yes, yes, yes. So that's why I'm saying short term and long term. So in long term methods, you'll be working towards removing the so called orthodox ideology. Anyway, let's get back to the possibility of, like, let's say, the dimension pertaining to sources of values. So, in sources of values, we all can first and foremost reflect upon the role of family. So, when we can see that a child is born and brought up in a specific environment, in that situation, we all can see that a child has a greater tendency to, like, catch up with a specific behavior in which like he or she is, like, we can say, raised. So there is a tendency that when a child is raised in a specific environment, that is influencing the value system of a child. For example, if the child is seeing that my parents can violate traffic lights, if the police wala is not there, they are, because children constantly observe. So if they are seeing that parents are saying, oh, is the police wala there? No, okay, fine, there is not much traffic, let us just move ahead. So the child observes that. So when the child takes control of the vehicle, the child may also take the risk of, like, taking such an action when we are speaking of it. Okay. So you can connect with this given sub dimension when we are talking about it. So if parents are talking about, like, informally about certain bad things, okay, so the nature of conversation will impact. If they are talking about like caste or religion with a biased perception, or they are violating traffic rules, so a child will have a subconscious tendency to implant or get inspired by it. Yes, not wearing helmet and all that stuff. Again, we can see if a child is raised in an authoritative environment, this is also something which I'm sharing with you, which is there proved through various case studies. So if the environment is authoritative for a child, like in childhood, so if in childhood there is authoritative environment, the child will show less concern for democratic values as the child grows up, because in an authoritative environment the child learns that once in a while coercive action is necessary, or exercising some kind of violence is necessary, because when we are exercising some kind of violence or coercive action, corrective behavior can be brought. Like, for example, if someone feels that hitting once or twice is necessary to bring correction, so as the person becomes an adult and is seeing that some kind of violence or misbehavior is going on, the person will advocate that let us elect such leaders who can once in a while be coercive. They are not hesitating in violating human rights. They are not hesitating in, like, killing like someone or beating someone up, and like without following the due procedure of law. So that's why you can see in entire Southeast Asia, because in entire Southeast Asia, it is a normal culture, not just in India, that for correctional behavior, it's fine to hit the child once in a while. Beating the child is very normal. And in some cases, severe beating is also validated or it is covered up. So in that situation, what happens, you can observe the, we can say, thought process across South Asia, how it evolves. So you can see that, like in we can say Singapore, there are very rigid rules, regulations. If you are violating any of it, knowingly, unknowingly, you are put behind bars for 2 years to 5 years to 10 years of imprisonment with very heavy fine. Similarly, you can see that like there are coercive rules in Malaysia. In Philippines, you can see the right wing government coming to power. So on an average, you will see that if you are raised in an authoritative environment, even if you are electing a democratic government, the tendency to choose an autocratic leader within the democratic government will also be there. You can see China has a very like autocratic way of handling its politics. So the way we are raised as children, we tend to endorse those values even politically. That is something which you all can connect with. So like this is something there. Similarly, our idea of gender justice, when we speak of it, so the component of gender justice is also that we learn from our childhood. If our mothers, sisters are treated equally, healthily, we'll see that the child will have a sense of balanced sense of gender justice. But if the child is experiencing high levels of imbalanced treatment or gender injustice, in that situation, we all will be seeing that the child will be having a skewed up or a compromised sense of understanding towards the men and women in the society. Again, if parents are very meticulous about cleanliness, the children will inculcate that behavior associated with cleanliness. So, to explain the same, I would like to explain you through contact comfort studies, and also associated with, I will explain it through orphanage studies. Okay. So beating of child is not morally good. Agreed. It's like failure of your own patience. If you are not patient as a person, because children just put your patience to test, as simple as that. So if you're a patient person, you know how to give explanation to a child and then, like, calm the situation down. It is only when you lack patience, and saying this is very easy theoretically if you have to exercise patience once in a while. But if 24/7 you are surrounded by such a situation, resorting to violence once in a while uh, is something which you can see a lot of parents resort to, because they are under tremendous pressure of, we can say, occupation, relationship chaos, or some other thing. So they are caught up with so many issues that it is like the child becomes sometimes a sponge in which they try to throw their crap so that it just sucks it up. Or sometimes a child is also used as a, we can say, punching bag by few parents, whereby they are dousing all their stress and fatigue. So, and that's how it impacts the growth of children, right? But ma'am, if a child is born in more democratic culture, it will not be more free. To the child after some age will not be free. What is free? Freedom also comes with responsibility. Who is saying that freedom is recklessness? Freedom can also come with duty and responsibility if it is taught properly, right? So that's also there. So with respect to this, um, when we are speaking of this given dimension, so so a lot of you are sharing different types of possibilities that you have witnessed. All right, now, so with respect to this given dimension, when we are speaking of orphanage studies, what I imply to share with all of you, that in orphanage studies, the behavior of children with or without parents, uh, with or without parents, was studied. Okay. So in this, it was observed that children with parents Okay. First, they were, we can consider, were emotionally more stable. Okay. We can again consider that they were more confident. We can again connect, they were more responsive, more optimistic, and then also ready to counter the challenges in life. The challenges in life. So these were the, like, qualities that were seen with respect to the individuals. And like a lot of these qualities are needed. These are the preconditions of good leadership, right? Preconditions of good leadership. Good leadership. Again, another case study, it proved that the level of mother's education, mind it, not literacy, but also education, directly influenced the value development of a child, directly influenced the value development of a child. When we are talking about the role of family in terms of inculcation of values, so we can also see this segment with respect to contact comfort studies. It is also called Harlow's monkeys, being put to this study, in which it was stated that the attachment and a lot of values, they start when there is a physical sense of comfort, physical sense of touch, physical cuddling involved between the infant and parent. When we are young, the more our parents hug, cuddle, hold us in moments when we are scared, in moments when we are hurt, in moments when we are confused, in or moments when we are in unfamiliar situation, the more our parents are ready to hug us, cuddle us, like, show that sense of comfort and belongingness to us, the higher is the chance, okay, for a child to be a strong and resilient personality. So in the similar manner, human beings also exercise, or they also express that kind of, we can say, comfort, that kind of physical warmth. So you can see the two images. There was this image in which there was, like, this wired structure kept, and there was this monkey baby. It did not have its mother, it had lost its mother. So, and there was another, like, this structure in which was wrapped with towel, and the monkey baby continually hugged it every once in a while, because it needed that hugging, it needed that mother's touch, because it is something which brings a sense of belongingness and warmth, and a sense of, like, that sense of being taken care of. So those babies who had, those monkey babies who were in the protection of their mother, who were taken care of by their mother, those babies, they expressed, like, greater confidence. Those babies, they expressed more stable personality. Those babies, like, they were, more responsible, and they exercised better leadership. Most importantly, we can also see that they were more confident, okay, they were more confident before the opposite sex, while interacting with the opposite sex. So that's why it is considered very essential, with respect to, we can consider the kind of physical warmth that comes from parents. That is also very essential to come, and that also shapes our personality. And that's why subtly, directly as well as indirectly, our families play a very crucial role in shaping our personality, in shaping our values, in shaping our sense of assertiveness, right and wrong. Like, there is a definite impact of not just my father and grandfather, moreover my mother and grandmother's personality. My grandmother was super authoritative and super assertive. She was taking care of household chores, but, like, my grandpa was an officer, and later First he was a freedom fighter and later he became an officer and stuff. So my grandmother was very well exposed, very well traveled. And in those times, I'm talking about 1960s and 70s, my grandfather, like, because he was an officer, he was least bothered about what's happening to the farmland. So my grandmother used to travel through AC3 because that was the greatest luxury in those times. So she used to travel all the way to AC3, reach our village where, like, the fields were there, something like, it was a 12 or 13-hour train journey, reaching over there. And then she used to give the like fields on sharecropping, take care of the things. If there is some poor person whose daughter is going to get married, so she'll do some charity. If someone is not getting enough to eat, she'll share the crop, the bumper harvest that she has experienced. She'll pack the remaining stuff and she'll get it loaded by the labor class on buses. And then those buses will those buses who were traveling to our city, they would arrive, like, the next day. And then she would call up, like, we had a telephone in those days. So she used to call up to one of my uncles, from one of the doctors in that village. So he had a phone. She used to call up from that and she used to tell that, okay, you just get the truck unloaded. And then one of the uncles used to go get it unloaded, get the stuff, like, packed, and a labor class used to come and dump it in our storerooms. So there were three storerooms. She used to get it all done. And I've seen her managing it all, fearlessly traveling across India, fearlessly taking religious trips, going to Mathura, Vrindavan, here, there, southern parts of India. So she was very assertive. And even though she could not speak English, but language was not stopping her. She, I mean, like, she went to Andhra Pradesh and she spoke in her own colloquial language and negotiated for bananas. My grandpa was watching her from distance once when he was traveling, and he was like, I was just seeing the lady, the way she was authoritative and assertive and getting her things done. And my grandma was very assertive. As I was growing up, I used to subconsciously watch her, the way she used to regulate things, talk to the staff, talk to the, like, the gardener when he used to come once in a while, to the like people who used to sell vegetables and fruits, the passers by. So I used to see how she used to interact with so much of clarity, assertion, authority. There was compassion if and when needed, and sometimes when one has to be brutal, she was like, and she was very caustic with her comments, like one liners, killer one liners. So that was there. My mother is a, like, strict woman, and she is like thick pursed lips. She doesn't talk much. She'll be like, oh, don't talk so much, it hurts my head, you talk so much. So like that. So a very reserved person. My mother is very different from my personality, but very upright woman, very honest, very disciplined, very upright. I am not half as disciplined when it comes to exercising and eating like her. She is thinner, fitter, like, amazing as a person. And she constantly inspires me to become a better version of me. So, like, these women, they had their own personality, which also inspired me to become better, and probably to, like, think what ought to be done in a specific situation. So, like, the environment in which we are raised, that also determines our personality. Probably because the women in my family were quite independent, fierce, they were vocal, they were well traveled, and probably that also inspired me, and which helped me to take up a lot of, I would say, decisions in my life. And more importantly, I have also traveled in many countries by myself. In few there were friends and family, but in many countries there was no one. I was just chilling out by myself, just taking a solo trip. So that's also there. And, like, so a lot of things that we do, a lot of things that we pursue, like my grandpa always used to say, if you really want to become a person of wisdom, follow great books, follow great personalities, and travel a lot. Because since ancient times till now, people have gained a lot about cultures, civilizations, philosophies, insights, and some grassroots level wisdom, some wisdom of nature, by just being there, by traveling to those places. So these three basic, and he quoted Rahul Sankrityayan, who is a philosopher and also, like, I would say, an avid traveler. Who, and if you don't know Rahul Sankrityayan, you should know about him, because um, he was one of the philosophers par excellence in, we can say, modern India and post independence also, when you read. So, like, and I know that a lot of, I was exposed with Rahul Sankrityayan's name when I was in standard 6, and I knew a lot of my friends who had done post graduation or graduation or even later in preparation, who did not know who Rahul Sankrityayan was. Okay, and I had books of Rahul Sankrityayan kept at my home. So it actually makes a lot of difference the way we have been brought up, the ideals and values, okay, in which we have been surrounded by, and the kind of upbringing that we go through. Okay, so a lot of things associated with right and wrong and do's and don'ts, it is shaped massively by our families when we are speaking of it. Yes, yes, if you, those who have read about him, that's great, I appreciate that. So no one can beat when it comes to a mother. Yes, in a way, that's there. So okay, so ma'am, if a child knows that his or her parent left him in an orphanage, or there is some kind of cruelty of the society, loss of piousness towards a mother's bond, yes, Sudipto, that also happens. That's why just yesterday or day before yesterday, a child said that values are permanent. Values towards family and family, the attachment towards family is permanent. To which I had responded, it's not necessary and not universal. Children who have been abused by their family, maltreated by their family, crime has been committed towards those children by their family members. Maybe parents are addicts, or they are into drugs, or they have sold the child or beaten up the child mercilessly, that the child has lost a limb, or got disabled, or has been hurt badly, anything of that sort. That's a rupture, that's a permanent damage uh, in the personality of the child, or in the perception of the child towards, the family. So that's there, we all can consider that given possibility, right? So okay, now, so as we are just moving ahead with this given possibility, there are different types of families which can encourage you with different types of value system. Like for example, if we are born and brought up in a nuclear family, it will encourage us individualism. Like, our personality is important, our sense of freedom is important, we taking up responsibility and doing things is important. But at the same time, because it is like lesser number of members, a child can become reclusive and introverted. So this is something which can impact like a child being raised in a nuclear family. Also, a nuclear family is a byproduct of industrial economy, a byproduct of modern society. So you will see that the child will be more open to change, accepting change, adapting to change, accepting new values. So all that, and accepting broader human principles, those things will be there in a child by getting motivated by modernity or modernism. In terms of joint family, when we are speaking of it, if a child is raised in a joint family, there will be a lot of feudal tendency also which a child can grab, pertaining to patriarchy, pertaining to maybe caste based discrimination. There will be also some good values which a child can learn, that is the attitude of sharing, because you have so many cousins, so many relatives, so you cannot eat in isolation, you cannot enjoy in isolation, because that's not the standard value. You enjoy when you're sharing, you enjoy when, your cousins are involved, your family is involved. So it's like that. And at the same time, conservatism of the senior generation can also impact, because it is glorified that seniors are always correct. Always respect your seniors in all conditions, even if you don't approve of their thought or act, but always maintain a basic sense of respect. So in that situation, you can see that a lot of different set of ideals can be we can consider communicated by the nature of family you are associated with, this the we can say the size of the family you are associated with. Again, we can see that along with the family, there is also the role of society. So there is neighborhood, there is classmate, peers, colleagues, media, movies, television, everything is influencing upon us. So that's why we see that there is adult written against movies, where there are some scenes pertaining to exposure to, we can say, carnal pleasures, or there are scenes pertaining to alcoholism or smoking, because that's something which children should be avoiding. So when we are speaking of this, when we are seeing such scenes, to fall into the conformity, to look cool, we have a tendency to abide by that. So that also can impact our behavior, our value system. Again, we can see that There can be like the society can also like for fitting in the society, for the sake of conformity, we can do certain specific activities which also builds or influences our value system. Again, we can see the society can encourage values in us through reward and punishment, through social control. We have already discussed it previously, if you remember, theories of moral development, that stages of moral development, Lawrence Kohlberg, and also social control. So patterns of, we can say, inculcation of values I shared, socialization and social control. Again, tolerance is something which we again learn from our society. If our society is tolerant, we exercise acceptance towards diversity, celebration of diversity. If tolerance is missing, there will be fundamentalism, communalism, strain before communities, loss of social harmony, loss of social capital, all that will happen, right? At the same time, when we are talking about inculcation of values by educational institutions, okay, so when we are talking about inculcation of values by educational institutions, we can like bifurcate it into certain subparts, like the role of teachers, the role of curriculum, okay, and education in general. Okay, so Vivek, as you are asking this, that can live in relation be propagated in joint family? So as I said, joint family is motivated by conservatism. So why will something so random be promoted or accepted or motivated by a like joint family? You yourself can respond if you read the slide properly, right? Isn't it, ma'am? If a child is exposed to such circumstances, but after bringing back to him into a good environment, does the child change his mindset? Yes, it can happen with repeated counseling. You need to heal the child so that the child unlearns all the damage. The child realizes that what the child has undergone is uncomfortable and it's not justified, and no one should undergo it. So that even though the child cannot forget what the child has experienced, but the child develops a sense of understanding that what is right and what is wrong and what should be avoided at all costs in all situations, so that the child gets exposed that there are a lot of individuals who are victims of injustice, but they have performed or they have contributed greatly by realizing how to undo injustice. Okay, so that's why you need a lot of patience and proper counseling per se. Okay, anyway, with respect to role of teachers, when we are discussing about it, so role of teachers, you can also connect it with a lot of teachers. Like Aristotle was the teacher of Alexander the Great. So in the process of he becoming great, or politically we can say so, very sound, or morally getting exposed to a set of values, there must have been an inevitable impact of Aristotle. Same applies to Chandragupta Maurya. The impact of, we can consider, Chanakya cannot be avoided or ignored with respect to Chandragupta Maurya. Similarly, we can think of GK Gokhale, right? GK Gokhale must have had a profound impact on Gandhi, because Gandhi considered him as his political guru, and he shaped his initial political ideology. In modern times also, we can see that the value systems that we promote can make a lot of difference. Like teachers were motivated by commercial interest, and when they are like not teaching in the school, but they are like teaching in the tuition, the child is unable to develop the similar old school set of respect. There is a sense of materialistic value that gets promoted, and the child can see and sense the commercial interest involved. Right. In the similar manner, when we are thinking of physical punishment or any kind of corporal punishment, that is also we can consider. Can we quote Krishna and Arjuna here? Yes, you can do that. Definitely, you can do that. So that's also there. So um, um, since nuclear family leads to children to become introvert, can the character always be bad? No, not really. There are the positives and negatives to being introvert. First, second, not every child becomes introvert, because along with parents, there is the neighborhood, there is the set of friends who also influence the child. Okay, so there was a generalized overview being given, right? So that's also you can consider. Yes, Dronacharya, Arjun, you can think of that also. Good. I appreciate all those people who are able to think. Yes, Eklavya and Dronacharya also you can think. So very true, right? So I appreciate the like diversity of examples, positive and negative, that you all are able to arrive at. That's how you're supposed to think, right? Again, you can see, when we are speaking of this, remember the Nangloi incident? I don't know how many of you are aware of it. Few years back, there was this student who stabbed his teacher to death because he asked something from him in the class. Similarly, a few years back in Ryan International School, there was this Standard 11 kid who killed a Standard 1 child just because he wanted a holiday and postponing the test. No other thing. No personal animosity, nothing of that sort. So, like when we are talking about such possibilities unfold around us, they also are guided by certain specific behavior, and they also influence the behavior of others who are exposed in our environment when we speak of it. All right. Again, with respect to this, yes, you can take Oprah Winfrey's example as well. Parshuram Karn is also fine. Ramakrishna Paramhans and Vivekananda would also serve as a great example. Okay. Again, when we are talking about role of education, so you can connect with how the syllabus or the curriculum is associated with the values that our textbooks aspire to our textbooks aspire to impart in us, like world history. So in world history, when you are studying French Revolution, you are getting exposed to ideals of liberty, equality, fraternity. When you're reading in world history, Gandhi's, train from Durban to Pretoria, you are able to see that how a person should have the moral courage to stand against injustice, and not personal injustice, but also identify the larger injustice involved in a situation. Similarly, in the new NCRT, you can see there are components devoted to, committed to secularism, non-violence. Okay, so that is also like something which you can see. In literature, students are taught how, human nature should be interpreted, and how social values of a given era influences the mindset and thought process of an individual. Again, in science, when a child is studying science, a child learns the value of curiosity, raising right set of questions, not believing things on the face value, constantly having a critical approach, a logical approach, okay, towards any specific scenario. So a critical logical approach with a curious mind is something which I also encourage to all of you at all times, that in bureaucracy what we want is thinking human beings. So thinking human beings comes when you have a curious mindset, a thinking mind, a constantly logical mind, a critical mind. All right. So that's something which I can encourage to all of you. So, ma'am, in the mains, we have to do all the 20 questions, or we should do only which we can write perfectly? You should do all. The ones you know perfectly, be super speedy and try to write it within the stipulated time, and the ones that you are not very confident of, or partially, write at least something. Never try to skip the questions, because that goes all the more negative. Even if you get 2 marks out of 10, that's worth it. Even if you get 1.5 marks, that's also worth it. If you have attempted, like, let's say 15 questions and you are getting 5.5 or 6 out of 10, and like let us say you have attempted 20 out of 20, in which you are getting 5 in few, 5.5 in few, and 6 in few, because you are also balancing time, and few other questions, the 5 you are planning to leave, you are getting 2 2 1 1 3 3, something like that. It will still add up to more marks. So never try to skip questions, and don't write incorrect information. Don't write what is not asked. You can write some generalized overview related to keywords mentioned in the question, and don't stretch up the generalized overview. Just write 40-50 words, that's it. So rather than skipping a question or leaving a question, always write something, some generalized overview related to the topic. That will also fetch you marks, that will also give you some marks, because let me share this with you that it has happened in the past, and it shall continue, that at least 10% of the questions shall not be known to you. 10% of the questions will be as such that out of, like, let's say 20 questions, there will be 2 to 3 questions you'll see and you'll be like, huh, what does it aspire to ask? Or I don't know the answer. And this will be with 90% of the students, because examiner purposefully creates the shock factor. Because if you are an IS officer and everything is like going hunky dory, one night you'll be just like back from the office, talking to your child, having dinner, and about to sleep, and you'll come to know, oh, there is a riot that has like broken out in the outskirts of the district. And you have to just regiment. Your sleep is lost, private life is lost, everything. And you have to just run and you have to just fix situations. And you're getting calls from ministry and center and here and there, and your juniors are calling, and you have to just take control and command of the situation. Okay. And you have to coordinate between different departments. So it's a 24/7 job. So the shock factor is there in the job itself. That's why the shock factor is put to test even in the exam, the way the question paper is laid before all of you. So you once in a while will see that the questions will be laid down in such a manner that you will see the question like, what was this question? I'm getting a cardiac arrest. What should I write? Don't lose heart. Move ahead, see another question. If another one is also like that, move ahead. You will definitely find 80% of the questions doable. The 20% you don't know, do not leave them. Attempt something about them. All right. So that was a fair question, I must say, Sargun, as you were asking that. Again, how many NCRT chapters? How many? Just read NCRT. I mean, like if you don't have an understanding of a basic school level textbook, then it is a matter of shame. So that's what Vienna Conference developed. What it was. Vienna Conference, I will be quoting later when I'm discussing, like, ethics in governance. There you will find that I'm quoting, like, Nolan Committee, I'm quoting Vienna Conference, I'm quoting different other sources as well. Okay. And so that's what you can consolidate. Else, the nature of question itself that says that you are aware of certain basic components. Incorporate it. If you want to jump the gun, you can just incorporate here also, it will fit in well. The role played by Jyotiba Phule in inculcating educational fundamentals to his wife first, then both together empowered the society as a whole. Yeah, you can consider that thinkers like them, we can say reformers like them, have shaped possibilities for millions others. Women like me have been able to attain education because someone fought for our rights 150 years back. If 150 years back everyone would have adjusted to the same order, maybe we would have been victims of child marriage, maybe we would have been victims of poor levels of education or illiteracy. So that's also there. Okay. Once in a while I take up the previous year questions, Tripti. At that time, just pay attention. Once your two chapters are over, at least two chapters, then I will, means foundational values for civil services, when that is over, I plan to take up certain questions associated with case studies, and I'll explain you how to deal with case studies, how to respond to the case studies, what are the steps to be followed in case studies, and I have created PPTs for that, and I'll share that with you. Okay, so don't worry. So with respect to this, that's great, Prashant. Okay, now when we are speaking of this, for every subject, I don't know if it is compulsory now or not. When I was in school, we were made to think and answer to these questions. Yes, yes, good one, Shika. If you had such a schooling where you were made to think and then respond to a question, that basic skill instilled in you will help you in the mains exam as well. So now, with respect to this, as we are seeing the role of education through the curriculum, so we understood role of teachers, then we are seeing role of education. So we can further see that it is the content in the textbook which also influences. Like, if the content earlier, not the now NCRT but the old NCRT and textbooks, had a gender biased content, mother used to clean and do household chores, father used to fix the work outside, sister was helping the mother, brother was playing outside and climbing the tree, so, like, and getting into some adventure sports. So we all could see that the issues of gender was something like here, gender roles is something that was created by the textbook. So that's something which we need to reflect upon. Again, value education, is it desirable when we speak of it? So you need to understand value education is a compulsory segment which should be imparted because it actually shapes how the country behaves. Any sense of, like, let's say the Pakistan hating India or India hating Pakistan via textbooks, or North Korea educating its children an emotion filled with hatred towards South Korea or the Western world, So that is like trying to shape the human values of the citizens in such a manner that it just influences their thought process and even decision making capability as adults. So that's like faulty when we speak of it. So other ways through which values can be imparted to children, it can be imparted through different events. Like for example, I always say that whenever you have to donate it not yourself, involve the children of the family. See, have you seen that specific meme or not? It's a video, not a meme, it's a video in which a child is going to a shop and the child is asking for 10 rupees ke turture de do, 10 rupees ke turture de do. The child wants to purchase that kurkure for 10 rupees in his own interesting accent. Yeah, you all have seen that. Yeah. So when the 10 रुपए के तुरतुरे खाने वाला बच्चा, when that child at that age or level who knows the importance of 10 rupee, that I can purchase this candy or chocolate or kurkure, when such a child receives 500 rupees and can purchase so many candies and chocolates and seeing that this seems to be a heavier currency, okay, or maybe 10 rupee currency, like a bundle of wad of 10 rupee currency is given to the child, and the child like, oh my god, I can purchase so many things, and then the child is encouraged, go and pay this amount to purchase a blanket or a shoe, and when the child has paid that amount, then taking that blanket or a shoe and giving it to a poor person, and then telling the child that when you give, seek blessings, fold your hands, be humble, don't have that sense of arrogance that you are giving, don't throw it, don't push it, just give it and fold your hands and say like take care, seek blessings. When you train these values to your child, when you are taking the child to old age homes or any such shelter homes or any such place, you are teaching your child compassion and altruism. Okay, this is something which I encourage to all my friends and like cousins who have children, that whenever there is a birthday, irrespective of what or other activities you plan or perform, please encourage the child to get into some activities, especially on that day, which is motivated by compassion or altruism, because that is going to shape the thought process of child in the long run. Okay, again you can see with respect to when during school days children were taken to museums, to cultural centers. Why did our schools organize such excursions and trips? What was the purpose? The purpose was to encourage tolerance, the purpose was to encourage secularism. Okay, so that is something which uh, we all can connect with. Okay, again you can think of this, the tree plantation, street cleaning drives which is encouraged during school days, right? So this tree plantation and street cleaning, it is encouraging children to have the values associated with environmental protection. When children are trained in yoga, what is it? The children learn how to internalize one's energy, and also how to create a clarity of thought, how to balance the mind, body, and the spirit, the energy of it, aligning it in a specific dimension, right? So that's something which all of you can reflect upon. All right. So, yes, the question will be in two parts. The first part will be theory, and second will be case study, right? And through which both the segments you will be able to deal with when you are reflecting upon the answers which we'll be discussing. Will ethics also contain penalty marks? All papers can be under the scanner of penalty marks. All right, all papers. So, with respect to this, I would like to like conclude this specific subtopic, inculcation of values by family, educational institutions, and society, by the quotation of APJ Abdul Kalam, which also qualified as a 2022 question. If a country is to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are three key societal members who can make a difference. They are the father, the mother, and the teacher. That's why we have to understand that this is not just a regular job or a profession or a method of making money. It is a profession which is one of the most noble professions. After parents, the next role is that of us. So we have to be at all times be motivated and inspired by the correct set of ideals, because what we are inspired by and the actions that we perform is indirectly or subconsciously going to impact upon you, the way you think, the way you process, the way you learn. Because what we bring to the class is something which is going to be taken by you in different sizes and chunks, to each his own. But it's like, different children may have different sizes of container, how much they can receive from their teacher, right? But if it is flowing well, then only it can be received well. That has to be somewhere understood thoroughly. Okay. So, when we are speaking of this given possibility of this question, first and foremost, you need to understand that role of family, okay, role of family and teachers in inculcation of values, in inculcation of values. First, this had to be discussed. If it is missing, okay, if it is missing, then what gets created, okay, and how it, like, what gets created and how it leads to corruption, how it leads to corruption. And then in the final part, so this is the first para, you can just give like something like we can say 60 to 70 words. This part can be given like 30 to 40 words, and again like you can give another 40 words related to how to inculcate it. Okay, how to inculcate it means how to strengthen their roles, how to strengthen the role of parents, teachers. Okay, so this is something which you have to break up the answer and you have to work it out. Okay, so this is how you would be working it out. Introduction, body and conclusion, that's a typical essay standard. In this you just have to open the context. In GS questions, try to open the context. So by the given quotation, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam hyphenated the importance of family and teachers in inculcation of values amongst children who are going to be future citizens or meaningful contributors in the growth of a nation. Full stop. After this, like contextual statement, which you can consider as an introduction, but this is just opening the context of the question, that inculcation of values is not written in the quotation, but you are opening that this statement is pertaining to inculcation of values. Then you can talk about like how inculcation of values is done, how is it done. So how parents and teachers do it, talk about the inculcation of values by them, the impact of it. Okay, then briefly discuss when it is missing, what, how it can lead to corruption, and then you can, in the end, you can discuss how it can be strengthened, or you can give suggestions that how we can improve upon this given possibility. That's how. And you have to break open the segment in terms of word limit. So see, 60 words, 70 words, 30 words, 40 words, so it's barely like 2 sentences, 1 sentence, 3 sentences, it's like that. Okay, so if they are long sentences, then 3 to 4 sentences. Short sentences, then maybe 5 to 6 sentences. So you have to break it open. Can we cite orphanage studies? Yes, you can cite, but in 1 sentence. I will explain in elaboration. When it comes to writing, you have to learn also how to abbreviate language. That's why on and off, I keep repeating that all the students have to work on their vocabulary. Because when you have power of language, you can communicate the answer effectively. All right, so that's there. Personal example, make it like a third person example. Okay, so that's what is altruism learnt or innate. It can be both. Some people have it very naturally and effortlessly, and for others it has to be brought in context in the social environment in which they are being born and brought up. So as they are born and brought up, they have to be continually be trained. It is not clear what is being asked in the question. Yeah, it's like the quotation is given, so you have to substantiate the quotation. So in the process of substantiation, you have to first explain the quotation. So that is how you are talking about inculcation of values and the role of family and teachers, right? How they perform. So what is their role? What is its impact thereof? Okay, how it is done. So that is going to take a sizable part of the answer. Then the statement also says that if a country has to become corruption free, means if this condition is missing, the country will be corrupt. The country will not be of beautiful minds. So if it is missing, what will be the repercussion of it? And then last but not the least, suggestions that how we can strengthen this possibility at all times, right? So the main body is actually this part. 60 to 70 words means almost half of the answer goes in the role of teachers and family members, how they inculcate the values. Then just barely 20% reflection, then when it is missing, what can be the outcome? And then another 30% you have to discuss that what shall be done. Okay, what shall be done? So that's what. Through which book you can improve the vocab? You don't have to like buy a book. All you have to do is, as you are proceeding chapter after chapter, all the new words you get introduced to, try to imbibe it in your vocabulary. There is no extra book or new book needed. As you're listening to the session and reading the content which is there in your book or which is there in the slides, the PPT, you can just substantiate it accordingly. I've also given you some homework. This is your homework for self reflection and reading. And in this also, you will come across a lot of new words and vocabulary. So you are supposed to read. This is some extra dimension I have created. No question has been asked so far related to this dimension, but what if it is asked? So ethical conflicts in cosmopolitan culture and urbanization. It can be asked differently also. It can be asked ethical conflicts in the wake of globalization. Okay, so any such possibility, if asked, you are supposed to read this content and reproduce it. So I have created, you can see that this is a sizable content which I have created, and you're supposed to read and reflect upon it. Okay, I have also given that when there are ethical conflicts, what is the solution? What is the way out? So the problem first I have discussed, how, what, and why it is happening, and how to solve it. Okay. So this is your homework. You are supposed to read it. Please be thorough with it. Read this entire bit. Okay. So that the chapter is fixed from the possible potential areas as well, from where questions can be raised or can be asked. All right. I know so many words, but I'm unable to understand when it comes in front of me. But when I try to write it, I don't get a catch of the words. Oh, the solution is practicing it verbally and in written form. The more you practice in your day to day life, suppose you are getting introduced to a word, try to use it at least 3-4 times within a week. First, within 24 hours, use it. Even if you are speaking English, use it before your friends, in a message, while typing. Use it somehow. Just put it to action. When the words come to action, they become a part of your thought process. And the more you frequently are using it, the greater your sense of comfort created towards that word. Okay. Now, so SME, please support me with the questions now. So with respect to this, we head towards our next chapter, and that is associated with aptitude. The topic of aptitude and foundational values for civil services. So it is like a different chapter but connected with the previous one, because we were dealing with values, human values. Now we are going to deal with foundational values. So foundational values for civil services. Okay, so as we are dealing with it, in the very first page, you all can see that there is this novel, English August, an Indian story, which is written by Upmanyu Chatterjee. Upmanyu Chatterjee is like a senior IS officer. He was he became an IS officer, and later on, you see that he became a novelist. So his innate skill was that of a novelist, and he became an IS officer, and then he writes this given possibility. The the protagonist in the novel, he is called Agastya Sen, and Agastya Sen speaks these words. I quote. He says, "Most young men in India do not realize their aptitude. In search of their career, they just keep on trying and something clicks. I am one of them, and I became an IS officer. And it is so true for the youth in India." What does it imply? That majority of the youth is unable to even realize or identify its true aptitude. Okay. Which chapter to read? Chapter 4, 5. This is what, like, I am under the impression it incorporates the components of ethics and values and all that sort of. So that's what is essential. So when we speak of aptitude, what is aptitude? So aptitude, you can understand, it is defined as a natural or inherent capacity to acquire a certain skill or ability in the future through appropriate training. Through appropriate training, right? It can be both physical as well as mental, right? It can be both physical as well as mental. So what is it? It is inherent natural capacity that we have, and it is a certain skill, and we can also acquire it by training. So it is natural and inherent, it is naturally present in us, and it can be both associated with our mental as well as physical existence, right? It is coming from the root word aptos. Aptos literally means fitting for, fitted for. Okay, so the job that we are born for, something which we are, like, by default we are created for. Okay, so when we are speaking of it, you can connect it with the terms like skills. Skills are what? They are learned from the past, learned from the past, right? Like, for example, we can consider skillful writers. Skillful writers, so they learned writing, developing right set of vocabulary, grammar from the past, so that's skill. Then comes the word ability. Ability is associated, or it is the learned tendency of the present, learned in present, right? For example, if I'm saying that I have the ability to ride a car, okay, so I have the ability, I can ride the car in present, and I've learnt it, so I have the ability to ride a car. And then comes the component of aptitude. Okay, so what is aptitude? It is associated with those things that you learn in future, that you learn in future, provided that the condition is okay. So provided that you are given proper training, you are given proper training, right? That's aptitude. So aptitude is the tendency of the future. Skills are the learned skills of the past. Ability is your present caliber. So skills are learned from the past, ability is the present caliber, and aptitude is the tendency you can possess for the future when we speak of this given dimension. Okay. Now, with respect to this, when we are reflecting upon it, we can think of a lot of people like Virender Sehwag. He was short, stout, he didn't even have the body of a sports person, but still he was able to play so well. Why? Because of his eye and hand coordination. He had an exceptional eye and hand coordination, because of which he could win matches, right? Think of Mutaiya Muralidharan. Muttaiya Muralidharan, you can remember that he had a natural inclination in his elbow. His elbow used to turn by 15 degrees, because of which in the last moment, means in the last 1 feet away or 2 feet away, the ball could suddenly spin, which used to surprise the batsman, and that was one of the reasons how his bowling style became like so very unique. You can remember Michael Phelps, the number of gold medals he has won for America. After independence, all sports person consolidated together in India have not won so many gold medals as much as Michael Phelps alone has won the number of gold medals for his country. And it is because of his wingspan. His arms and the wingspan is so huge that it facilitates and it eases the way he can swim. Okay, similarly Usain Bolt, his legs and like the length of his legs and the way it can just move, all these are associated with physical. Let us think of mental. With respect to the mental aptitude, we can think of Srinivasa Ramanujan. Srinivasa Ramanujan, as you know, this man, he was never formally trained in the domain of mathematics. He was never trained with mathematics, right? But he was able to arrive at some amazing theories, some calculations, which the world was alarmed that how he could solve it or how he could arrive at those mathematical theories. He always used to say that it is the blessings of the Tripura Sundari that she arrives in my dreams and she tells me all the mysteries of the universe and she helps me how to solve it. Now, that's a mystical explanation of the thing. But if we reflect upon we can, if we reflect upon, we can say the logical possibility associated with it, because if I'm giving the mystical explanation, if you are deeply religious, you can believe in this possibility that yes, this is highly possible. This is like something whereby some proper guidance or some proper motivation can come from some we can say sharpened sense of sixth sense, or the what we call the developed or evolved sense of conscience and subconscious, all that is there, which is having some kind of energy. But when we are talking about the possibility from a rational, logical, worldly explanation, from that perspective we can understand that this man had a natural aptitude for mathematics, and with that natural aptitude he was able to, we can consider, he was able to perform exceptionally well in the domain of maths when we are speaking of it. So yes, even Messi, he was told that he's too small to play football, so that's also there. You can think of that. Can we say ability is based on skill? Yes, definitely ability can be based on skill as well, right? So let us move ahead. We are dealing with aptitude. Can aptitude be inherited? Yes, aptitude is also by birth. Some people are naturally good singers, so aptitude can be learnt, but aptitude is your natural tendency, natural inclination. So many people also have it by birth. Like I was giving you the example of Srinivasa Ramanujan. Yes. So when we are speaking, oh yeah, I'm going to explain you with respect to acquired tendency also, like civil services aptitude test. There's a fair chance that a child does not know how to behave like a bureaucrat, and once in a while suppose ends up writing something in a class which is unbureaucratic, and suppose I correct and the child becomes aware and alert. Oh, this is how I am supposed to think, this is how I'm supposed to work towards my language, this is how I'm supposed to use a formal language while typing or reflecting upon a situation. So what is happening? The child is taking smaller steps to acquire that aptitude, to build that aptitude, which is pro civil services. That's why it is also learnt, okay, when we are discussing about it. So with respect to it, when we are discussing this given dimension, I have given you some content associated with what is aptitude, the definition pertaining to aptitude, okay, and then what is the possibility related to why aptitude is needed. When we are discussing about it, why aptitude is needed, it is nothing but the importance of aptitude, the importance of aptitude. So the importance of aptitude, or why aptitude is needed, when we reflect upon it, we can understand it provides a head start. It provides a head start to achieve our targets. To achieve our targets. We can also see that we need less time and effort. We need less time and effort to achieve a particular skill, to achieve a particular skill, right? Again, we can also see the probability of success improves. So the probability of success is higher, right? Again, there is great sense of motivation. When you have the aptitude, you are motivated to work in that direction. Yes, yes, I'm understanding, though things are unaware or I was not knowing this subject or this chapter, but as I'm learning, it is joyous, maza aa raha hai. I'm learning a lot of things, so that means your aptitude is getting built. Okay, so there is great motivation, great motivation. Okay, again, because your aptitude is there, so there is greater sense of achievement and satisfaction. So, like, let's say a person wants to become a singer and parents want him or her to become doctor. But somehow the destiny takes a turn. The child promises that, okay, let me participate in this national or international competition. If I win, then let me sing. If I don't win, then I'll be back to studies. Suppose the child wins it and starts getting a lot of national, international contracts and becomes very famous singer. And the destiny takes its reroute. So that person will have a high sense of achievement and satisfaction that what I really wanted to become, I have become that. Okay. So the sense of orientation and achievement is greater. Okay. So Tendulkar, you can see that he failed in his 10th board, but he wanted to become a cricketer, and despite being short and stout, because he had the aptitude for becoming a cricketer, and as he became a very famous cricketer, it must have led to greater sense of achievement and satisfaction despite not being academically so competent, right? So that's something which all of you need to understand. Okay, so we will be like continuing with this discussion tomorrow once again. This is it for today. So let us meet tomorrow once again with our concerns pertaining to aptitude and also foundational values for civil services. Thank you so much, all of you. And with respect to this, just try to revise things effectively. Do multiple revisions, then only things stay. You don't have to read a lot of things, limited things, but multiple times. In the initial go, that is something which builds your skill and builds your aptitude. Okay, so with due level of interest, just keep working towards it. All right. So thank you, all of you. Good night. SME, please look into some concern if I'm missing it out. So thanks a lot. Good night, all of you. Take care.